Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you. It is Tuesday. We're live across the United Kingdom. Drive time on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. And we start, as we always start, by saying hello to my amazing children, Oliver and Iris, and Ava, and the missus in the car after an afternoon at Peppa Pig World, which is why I came to work. I hope you had a good time, guys. Oliver's very excited. Did me for 20 quid this morning. Love you, mate. And I will see you later. What is it? 4:02. Thank you to Ian Collins. Surprised he wasn't at Peppa Pig World with my wife as well, but that, my friends, is another story. Right, strap yourselves in. An afternoon of delectation of thoughts. I was thinking about this when I was coming in. So much to talk about again. Most important thing is, we want to hear from you. We always interview people and get their opinions. What do you make of the main news stories of the day? Usual ways to contact us, but a big change today. Jodie is not here. She's been replaced by Faith. I said earlier, have faith. I didn't mean that as it sounded, but Faith is here on 0344 499 1000. Ring her up and say, I have the faith. I keep the faith. Make a call. Ryan's here. Strangely happy, the lanky one today. Looking sprightly. There's a spring in his step. 0344 499 1000. You can WhatsApp in, send a voice note starting with... I don't know what. We'll work that out in a minute. You can also you can't make it FaceTime. Look at it like that. You can text the show 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Despite the fact that my children are in the car, the main news story of the day is our appallingly idiotic Prime Minister. I'm going to call him conflicting Keir. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has apparently decided now that transgender women are not women. In March 2022, just only 3 years ago, my friends, when he was leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer told The Times that a woman is a female adult. In addition, I believe he said that trans women are women. That is just not my view. That is actually the law. Really? 3 years later, the UK Supreme Court ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex under equalities law. So today, his spokesman says, no, the Supreme Court has made it clear that when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. So does he actually believe that? Has he gone full circle because he's a custodian of the law? Is he going to change his mind in 3 more weeks? Am I being unfair to Sir Dreary Starmer? Because let's be honest, I've spent 3 weeks saying he hasn't said anything. And now he's actually said something. I'm criticising him for that. But it is interesting. When you hear those stories, we were here yesterday for Bank Holiday Monday, and a lot of people were into this story over the weekend that there's this WhatsApp group in Westminster, apparently, full of Labour MPs, some cabinet ministers as well, trying to work out how they can kick back against that UK Supreme Court ruling because they don't agree. They don't like the fact that a woman is a biological woman and that a trans woman is not now under law. Be really interesting. What do you make of Sir Dreary Starmer? Do you buy his opinion? 0344 499 1000. Actually, on the back of that Supreme Court judgment, pro-trans protests are set to continue this weekend. Talked about it yesterday. Happy to talk about it again. I'm all for freedom of speech. I'm all for the ability to go and say I don't agree with something. But there is a really important question here. When you saw those pro-trans rights activists at the weekend defacing 7 monuments, including the suffragette Millicent Fawcett, nothing was done. The police stood, as they always do during the Palestinian protests. They stand and they do nothing. We've heard it before. We don't want to upset a minority group. We don't want to upset people. Really? Because after the Southport riots, those appalling scenes, quite rightly, not all far right, but quite rightly, the police were very, very active. So it is two-tier policing. It's two-tier justice. It's the police making a decision. Surely the vandalism and the hooliganism that we saw at the weekend by those pro-trans protesters, you try saying that, should have been dealt with straight away. And what will happen if that spreads over the next few days and weeks? Will the police just go, oh, I don't really want to upset people. I'm not against trans people at all, but I've said it and I will say it again, right? This has been sent down by the Supreme Court, OK? Fact. All it is saying is that women should be protected or feel protected in women-only spaces and in sport. That has to be good. That has to be... Well, that was brought by women. This is a bit I don't understand. 0344 499 1000. Richard III, no, Rachel Thieves, that useless woman who's the Chancellor, she's been handed a hammer blow. Of course she has. Basically, the world's top financial watchdog has warned her that we've run out of movement and it's going to be a major crisis. And the only way to get yourself out of the mess you've created is to either raise taxes or cut public spending. So, what's that? 9 months in, she's screwed. There you are. And if you look at a picture of her, she looks like Richard III. I think she should go. 0344 499 1000. And just to finish us off, so to speak, a migrant crime league table is to be published by the government. It's great, isn't it? That's an announcement. We're going to publish a migrant crime league table so we can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, where the people that come to this country are, where the worst perpetrators of crime come from. Wouldn't you want your government to go, I'll tell you what we're going to do, we're going to stop the boats. We're not going to talk about, you know, smash the gangs and release league tables. We're actually going to stop them coming here and taking advantage of a country that is wiping their backside and ignoring everybody else. Just an opinion. What do you make of it? 0344 499 1000. Couple of balmy stories as well about Easter eggs, Wimbledon and ice cream sales on the way. But we will start with a man who is... quite a rare breed nowadays, a Tory MP who held onto his seat. A Conservative for Beverley and Holderness, the legend that is Graham Stewart, looking smart as carrots this afternoon. How are you, Graham?
Thank you, Jeremy. I'll try and have a share of your energy and enthusiasm.
Well, I'm trying. It sort of dissipates as the hours stretch into the evening. Am I being unfair to Sir Drury Starmer? I mean, I've spent 5 days saying, come on, man, the Supreme Court has said that a woman is a woman, a biological woman, and you've been very, very quiet. You need to come out and speak. The reason that you're not is because you're terrified about the different arms of your party. Today, a judgment, his officer said, the Supreme Court judgment has made clear that when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. This, of course, is a man who's always believed in supporting whatever law is created, mostly in other countries. That's him done, is it? He can't be questioned now. He's released it. That's him doing a U-turn, is it?
Well, we should be pleased about that. And what we shouldn't be is conned by any pretense that this is what he's believed all along. They're all rushing out, aren't they? The very people who were, you know, you've got recordings. It's as if they don't think we've got memories and that we don't have the ability to look back on social media posts. It's all captured. When he said, do you remember, he was asked, can only a woman have a cervix? And would it be wrong to say that? And he said, oh, yes, it would be wrong.
I was downstairs in this very building when Piers Morgan interviewed the then leader of the opposition, and I know my kids are in the car, this will make Oliver laugh, and he said to him, can a woman have a penis? And our now Prime Minister could not answer it. And I am very much like you, Graham Stewart, because across the weekend there were stories that there is a WhatsApp group already showing its face amongst Labour MPs and, in fact, Cabinet Ministers saying, how can we kick back against the Supreme Court? That's appalling if that's true.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And they actually said it was appalling that someone from the Human Rights Commission went on the television and gave an interview basically in line with the court decision. It is one of those things. I think you and I share the same problem. We never quite understood how anyone could get to this position in the first place. We can see why some trans people feeling particularly hard put upon maybe got carried away in their campaigns. But why did ordinary politicians start subscribing to this view? People like J.K. Rowling. I mean, you can see the posters from these protests, which, as you say, are going on, saying that she should be killed. I mean,
we're
back to the two-tier policing, which you already referred to.
Absolutely.
How can they have these hateful signs? The Supreme Court has given its conclusion. We should welcome that. It's great that the Prime Minister's accepted that, because let's be fair, he could come forward and say, right, no, the Labour government doesn't accept that because we believe that...
Yeah, but he's on slightly dodgy ground, because this is a man who believes any court ruling, whether it's to do with the Chagos Islands or a country millions of miles away, and it would be slightly ironic, would it not, if he, the human rights lawyer, the man who talks about the law the whole goddamn time, turned around and said, oh, you know, the UK's highest law by, court, the Supreme Court, that's a load of tosh. The problem I've got with this is patently Labour don't agree with it. My problem is a little different, Graham, right? I'm not against trans people, but I haven't, I've said it before, teenage daughter. I think what I hate is I hear nothing from female. You know those women activists who jump up and down quite rightly and talk about women's rights, and I've always been very supportive of that. They disappear when you start talking about trans rights. And if my daughter was the #1 ranked paddle player in the United Kingdom, as Russell Quirk's daughter was, or if my daughter was a budding golfer, snooker player, runner, swimmer, whatever, I would feel really hacked off if a man was able to take part. So I think this is a sensible judgment. I don't think it's anti-trans. What I think we need to talk about when you look at these protests continuing is it has been hijacked by the bloody mob again. It's like so much is nowadays, right?
Yeah, I mean, the campaigners have said all they want to do is be left in peace. Well, the court was quite clear. It's not seeking to curb trans rights. People should be respected, just as you say. You know, they choose how they live their life, but we can't change biological sex. You have to draw the line somewhere. The court's done that for us. The Prime Minister's now accepted it. So I think we should bank that and be glad. But you know, at the same time, we've got to make sure that they aren't allowed at their protests to do things which anyone else would find themselves in prison for.
Now, I like the segue there, Stuart. You didn't even know you did that. You used the word "let's bank that," which leads me on nicely to a woman who you really, really admire. You are one of Rachel Thieves, or Richard III, as I call her, one of her biggest fans. Today, she's been told by the world's top financial watchdog, basically, the International Monetary Fund, has said, you're out of manoeuvre here, Thieves, because you've got it all wrong. You're going to have to hike taxes or basically... you're going to have to slash more of public spending, which is everything that the Labour Party in their manifesto said they weren't going to do. This woman is out of her depth, isn't she, Graham Stewart?
She certainly is, and it's frightening to think of her representing this country in Washington. She's hammering families. She's destroying family farms. She's closing businesses all around the country, 200,000 businesses just since her budget, and she made pensioners freeze over the winter. She's presiding over sclerotic growth, high inflation, and she's now been told by the world watchdog, as you say, that it's not down to that the high inflation in this country isn't down to Donald Trump and his tariffs. They've said it's down to UK government policies. They've said that even while he imposes tariffs, which are going to shove up inflation for every poor American family, she is going to do worse. It's going to be higher in the UK inflation this coming year than any other G7 country.
Put it in layman's terms. Am I allowed to say that, or do I have to say laypersons? Why has she, or how has she got it so spectacularly wrong, in your opinion?
I don't think she has the slightest grasp of where wealth comes from. I think that's the fundamental. You look at the whole front bench, none of them have ever worked in a business. They literally think business people are kind of rich, fat parasites who can just be taxed to oblivion. But it turns out if you make it unprofitable to hire people, they stop hiring. And now we're seeing unemployment going up. They thought that taxing business was a clever wheeze because we promised not to put taxes up on ordinary working people. It turns out that doesn't raise any money. Extraordinary, a £25 billion hit on the economy. And many commentators now think it'll raise nothing. Isn't that extraordinary? So they don't even get any money to spend on public services, but they have a huge negative impact on business, on employment, on hope and opportunity for people. And the IMF couldn't have been clearer today. They've said that skyrocketing inflation in this country is entirely down to the policies of Rachel Reeves. And that's why, as you know, Jeremy, that's why I say that Keir Starmer needs to bring her into number 10 and say, Rachel, you're fired.
But then look at that, right? Look at very good, impressive that. Yeah, I mean, she's the Chancellor, Rachel Thieves. You've got Lammy. I mean, I shudder when I imagine he's representing us in Europe. It's an extraordinary, and you make a really salient point, which is none of them seem to have any experience. I mean, the only one, and he's speaking now. I remain impressed by the Defence Secretary. He's the only one I like, John Healey. There's some gravitas about him as a human being. I don't have to agree with his policies, but the rest of them, and I'm with you. And what's really interesting is I had lunch with a very good friend of mine who built a very successful business, and he was saying, he's been doing it for 40 years and he's employed hundreds of people. He said, I couldn't do it nowadays. He said, I've got friends who are setting out now to set up small and medium-sized businesses or try and survive. And he said, it's virtually impossible. The NI increases this government have instigated, the workers' rights package they're going to bring in, all of which does nothing because people just go, why would I bother? I'm not going to make any money. Growth. They go on about growth. And actually what they've done, I thought it was brilliant what you just said. Anybody who's ever achieved anything in this country, be it through business or success, The Labour Party's idea of dealing with that is to tax them into oblivion so they either close their bloody business or they leave the country. That is not how you make an economy work, is it?
And you're seeing what we saw in the 1970s in so many ways, sadly. Inflation going up, the cost of living, hurting ordinary families. And you're seeing two types of people leaving the country. The wealthy, taking all that money with them. And then you're also seeing the ambitious. Far too many. We're competing with Dubai and Singapore and other countries. We should have taken that inheritance of the fastest growing economy in the G7, inflation back on target, and we should have been just trying to stay steady, let the economy grow. If the economy grows, this is what they talked about before the election, and they were right. If the economy grows, you get more money.
God, it must annoy you about how bad a job you lot did to have allowed these people in. And I'm not even having a dig when I say that. The other story I want to talk to you about is... So the Tories had Rwanda, which wasn't universally popular. The Labour Party swept to power, a massive majority, by saying that we're going to smash the gangs. Still nothing. Still the numbers increase. The weather gets better. Still this country, and people won't like this, is being overrun by people who are taking advantage of public services that our own people can't have. That's not against the law, saying that. That's the truth. The government's response today, Yvette, I call her Mrs. Balls, is that the nationalities of migrants with the highest rates of crime will be revealed in official league tables for the first time under plans of this government. Graham Stewart, would it not be better if this government worked out how it could stop migrant criminals coming to this country in the first place?
Well, absolutely. They promised to smash the gangs. They've done anything but. In fact, they've boosted their business. They've boosted their business model because... as the UN and everybody else is recognising, you have to have a deterrent. This is exactly why we pushed. It was very difficult for the courts and the rest of it to get Rwanda scheme going. The first thing they did was cancel it. Now they're casting around, following the Italian and other examples, and indeed the UN, and going, oh, actually, we need somewhere to process people so that they're not tempted to come here, knowing that they're going to be able to just live in the UK, claim benefits, and the rest of it. So it's a total disaster under Labour. Rishi Sunak correctly predicted that it would be. But, you know, we should be fair to Labour voters. They were lied to. They were told economic growth would be the #1 priority. They went, oh, well, that's good. The Labour government's going to actually look after business. That's good. They were told they'd protect pensioners. Then they didn't. Protect farmers. They didn't. And they were told, we're going to smash the gangs. Because quite clearly, you and I have discussed before, you know, the Conservatives didn't deliver on their promises on immigration, which is why it's a really important area for us to come forward with credible policies ahead of the next election.
I mean, I was laughing. I was laughing yesterday. I don't have to like everything about the orange man baby that is Donald Trump, but there's a group of MPs, predominantly Labour MPs, who are doing the rounds across Westminster saying, how can this dreadful liar be allowed to come here and talk to Parliament? Whether he's lied or not, right? He is the democratically elected leader of the free world who won the majority vote, you know, the popular vote, I think for the first time in maybe 40 years or something unbelievable. And I do find it a bit stinking rich from the Labour Party. I mean, you just labelled and listed the people they lied to. They did lie. They looked farmers in the eye. That's what Keir Starmer said, we will protect you. They've screwed them. Pensioners, veterans. What about waspy women? He screwed the waspy women as well, didn't he? He's actually lied to everybody. And now it transpires that actually he doesn't, you know, he was lying when he said a woman isn't a woman, a trans woman. And we've got a Chancellor who doesn't really know how economics works. I'm not given to being or trying to be outrageous, but we're a year in. What does the next 4 years hold under this mob, Graham?
Well, it's depressing. Well, the next year, according to the IMF, and they frequently get their predictions wrong, so let's get that on the record in the favour column for the government. But they're saying that it is the UK government's fault. It's UK government policies which are doing it, and that we're going to have inflation going up. And you'll remember there's a wafer-thin fiscal headroom. I mean, Rachel Reeves, the one thing she's clinging to as she casts around in the sea, is that she's going to stick to her fiscal rules. Well, all her headroom's gone, more than gone. With these numbers from the IMF today, if they're right and we're going to have this really, really low level of growth, then she's not going to be able to fund what she's promised to fund, in which case she's either putting taxes up further or she's making cuts. And again, that's what the IMF has said. And so far they're in denial. So what could we do in this coming year? Keir Starmer should bring her in and he should say, Rachel, you're fired. Because it's so important she goes. She is a particular problem. all
Who
roads.
do you replace her? Who do you replace her with, though? Who's got?
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, we've got
probably somebody not in the cabinet at the moment, because we looked across. Oh, look, there's the business secretary. That's good. He's got private sector experience acting as a solicitor. Well, it turns out acting was the appropriate
So the
word.
business secretary lied about being a solicitor. Lammy just eats his way through the Foreign Office. I can't, honestly, that embarrasses me. So, I mean, when he said that the green agenda is more important than the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, that's him. I can't even acknowledge anything he says. You've got Miliband, who's I think one of the most dangerous politicians in this country right now. Genuinely, he's got to be fired. If you were Keir Starmer, I mean, I'd be firing myself if I was Keir Starmer, but you could quite easily make a case for sacking your Chancellor, your Foreign Secretary and your Energy Secretary and your Business Secretary right now, couldn't you?
You could, and you could say that they all should have been fired by now. If he's going to, it could be a night of the long knives. It was Millen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah.
And if that's what it requires, the country needs to be turned around. We cannot have a Chancellor who has no understanding of where wealth comes from, because it's not going to be you or me, Jeremy. It's going to be the people at the bottom, the people on low-wage, part-time work. I mean, the lowering of the national insurance threshold from 9,000 to 5,000 sounds very technical. I don't fully grasp it, but it just means hundreds of thousands more people who are trying to get into work, who've been out of work, are suddenly being penalised. That's
here's the thing to finish it. We're I guess of the same age. I was brought up in a Tory household. It was about low inflation and safe streets and military and all the things that we've talked about, but it was about good housekeeping. The truth of the matter is they promised, all Labour governments promise everything to everybody, and when they get elected they realise that they can't afford to do that. So in the old days they'd print money and inflation would be at 30%, and if they stand their ground, the unions that got them there in the first place go on strike. It started in Birmingham, and I think you're right. Listen, Graham, thank you, mate. Really good to have you on. Really appreciate your input as ever. Good to have you. Graham Stewart, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness. Being quite honest, he says racial thieves should go. The IMF was today said that Rachel Reeves is out of wiggle room. There's a thought. Imagine Rachel Reeves, never mind. She can either hike taxes or cut public services because the economy is screwed. Keir Starmer's come out today and said, are you ready? A woman is a biological woman, despite the fact he spent a long time saying a biological woman is a female adult, and that trans women are women too. So, which, honestly, what an absolute mess. I need a cup of tea. Back in 3.
Can pretty much guarantee most years somebody will be murdered.
Yes.
Now,
There were 2 last year, I think, weren't there?
yeah, so somebody name me another event anywhere in the country where it's pretty much guaranteed there will be murder and those events are allowed to continue.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about drug deaths at festivals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
An organised
murder.
event.
Yeah, an organised event where murder is most likely to happen, because I can't think of another one.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yes, it is Common Sense. It is Talk. That's the home of common sense and free speech. It's 4:27. Hello. Drive on Talk on Tuesday afternoon, you lucky, lucky people. We're here till 7 o'clock. Starmer's changed his mind today. He's basically, we've come up with a great... This is Ryan at his best. So, listen, 3 years ago, Keir Starmer said, a woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women. Right. Last week, the Supreme Court said that was... I nearly said the word beginning in B and ending in S, but you can't say that with women, can you? Now, a woman is a biological woman. Today, Keir's official spokesman said, the Supreme Court has made it clear, when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. Lots of you texting, but I'm going to throw something out there. I'm not taking any credit for this. This is from Ryan. My question to you this afternoon, my friends, and there is a prize, 87222. What is a man? Very good, Ryan. What is a man? All we hear about is a woman's a biological woman. A woman can't have a penis. What is a man? 87222. You might get tickets to somewhere to watch something if you win with the best thing. With tickets to the Julia show or Mike, something like that. Be all right, wouldn't it? Hello to, who's that? Anthony and Selby. Hi, Jess. Can you please wish everyone a happy St George's Day for tomorrow? I doubt our PM will be doing that. Going to tell you a story about my father-in-law on that yesterday, because he lives in an area where the council have said if you dare to fly a St George's flag on St George's Day, that could be viewed as a hate crime. He, of course, will be putting his flag out at 6 o'clock in the morning and videoing it for your delectation. Hello to Lindsay in Essex. When did ketchup become $5.99? Fed up with this country, I'm going to move to Spain. Bizarre, but true, and listening, and deserves a thing. Oh, Graham's in Bushy, where I was conceived. Starmer said that 99% of women don't have a penis, following the Supreme Court's ruling. Will you repeat that statement? Afternoon, Jez, says Brad. Starmer is saying what a woman is. He hasn't said what a woman isn't. Oh, God, that's key. Listen, what is a man? That's what I want to know. 87222. What is a man? Crushed. Crushed, that's what men are. Crushed. Oh, look at the... Oh, they're looking at me through the glass. Oh, look at them. How can you say that? Horrible men. Gaz is in Pontefract. Great racecourse in Pontefract. Afternoon, Jersey says. Did you see the footage of Starmer angrily banging that lectern? I've never seen him bang anything. It was absolutely outrageous. Demanding that the disgusting, thuggish, violent, statue vandalising, life-threatening far-left protest mob be tracked down immediately and that they face the full force of the law when caught. No, I didn't either. Oh, I see what you did there. I was more mortified about him banging a lectern. Trump. I don't know what this means. Trump is the only person who can save America from becoming a third world dangerous hole. Good. I think the lawyer Starmer is dealing in semantics. He said that when looking at the Equalities Act, a woman is a biological woman. This begs the question, oh, God, what is a woman when not looking at the Equality Act, says Cliff in Berkshire. Cliff, I'm moving on. What is a man, Cliff in Berkshire? What is a man? What does a man mean to you? Jez, it's amazing, says Chris, that it took all this time to say a woman is born a woman, like a man is born a man. You cannot change this no matter what you chop off. There you go. Sally, what I don't understand is if a man thinks he's really a woman, how does he know? Oh, God, it's getting deep. Pardon? He can't possibly know what it's like to be a woman. Different physically, different hormones, different brain, different emotionally. Just because they don't feel like a man, I don't think means they therefore... Fishes. Oh, dear. It's a bit over the top. Sal, I'm sort of with you, but slightly confused. Kenny from Edinburgh. Hello, Jess. Can you ask Rachel Thieves if she can lend me a fiver? She's taking so much from me through taxes of every type that I've not got enough money to buy sprouts for my... spuds for my Tuesday night bangers and mash. I'm not surprised. And Karen, Oh, that's not her from the car park who moans at you, is it? I had that the other day. You shouldn't park there. Why not? It's for children. I've got 3 in the back, love. It's blacked out glass. Mind your own business. I lived through the 70s, says Karen, so I would never vote Labour, and Conservatives don't talk as one. They had 14 years and let the country down. Reform realise immigration is the majority problem with our country. They can't do any worse than the others. Karen, but I say it to you again at 4:31. Our little question for the afternoon. What is a man? Crushed. What is a man? 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We'll go to Cambridgeshire. Chris, good afternoon. How are you? You're on Talk Drive. What's happening?
It's simple.
Yes.
As usual, we are a huge majority, being dictated to by an incredibly small minority.
Are we talking about the trans argument?
Yeah.
I actually don't. Can I just say this? Can I just say this? I think you can almost negate the trans thing to a degree. It's another issue that has been hijacked by a baying mob, and you're right. Why don't the rest of us go sod off, baying mob? We're not having it.
Absolutely. You know, okay, they can live their life however they want, but why should the rest of us have our lives made a misery because of them?
I couldn't agree more. Chris, I'm going to ask you the million-dollar question. There is a prize up for grabs. What is a man?
A man must be someone born male. And after that, he stays a man. And after that, if he wants to be trans, then he is a man who wishes to live his life. Sorry.
Sorry, that was a slip of the tongue, wasn't it? That's brilliant. Yeah. Is it not true that men? Is it not true that most men, the women, wear the trousers, or if they don't, they tell the men which ones to put on? That's the truth, isn't it? You try Ryan, that's what his wife's like, and mine, honestly, scary. Thank you, Chris. 0344 499 1000. So please do text, there is a prize up for grabs. What is a man? We're doing it slightly differently. Amy, who pushes the buttons, all I can see is a smiley little face. All men are horrible, I hate men, except for my husband. The rest of you are awful. 87222, start your message with the word talk. The other big news today is our government has decided that they're going to listen to the British people and work out how to deal with the immigration crisis. They came to power saying that they were going to crush the gangs. So far that hasn't worked. In fact, the numbers have increased. So today their idea of fun is to say, we are going to release a migrant crime league table which will tell you where the majority of the worst criminals who are migrants come from. We're not going to tell you how we're going to stop it, we're just going to tell you how many are here. Good afternoon, Stephen Wolfe, Director for the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. How are you?
I'm great, Jeremy. Good afternoon.
What is a man? What is a man, Stephen? What is a man?
What is a man? That's a grown lad who thinks talking about feelings means throwing things at the telly during a football match and cries when he's got man flu. That is what a real man is.
I quite like that. Hi, Jez. A man is a Richard, or to his mates a Dick. That's Rob and Lynn in Chelmsford. There you go. Right, so listen, with this debate's going on, actually touch upon that very quickly before you do the Migrant Crime League tables. Starmer's done a full sort of 180 or 360, I don't know. He now says that a woman is a biological woman.
Yeah, it did take a set of lords to tell him what to do, though, doesn't it? That just shows how weak he actually is and how no moral values he doesn't have and how principled he doesn't have, because it shows that he will only do what other people tell him to do, and it looks good. If the PR is great, I'm going to keep my mouth shut, but if it's not great, then I'm going to do what in this case the judges say.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Get rid of him.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I so want a conviction politician who occasionally puts his foot in it or her foot in it before everybody jumps up and down. It's so focus grouped, isn't it? Oh, what will I get if I say this, and how will that be responded to? Now, your bag is this story, which is, to me, just sums up what is wrong with this country, right? So you come to power, the Labour Party, saying we're going to crush the gangs. Absolutely nothing. Numbers have gone through the roof, but we're now going to create a migrant crime league table. What the hell's the point of that, then, if you're still allowing them to come into this country?
Absolutely. You've already identified one of the weaknesses in this. I can tell you why he's doing it. He's doing it because of two things. He gets a nice little attack on Nigel Farage and reform by saying, look, we're tacking more to the right. But he also has a go at Chope and Cleverly, who are in the Conservatives, who rejected this idea of having a migrant table, and turns to the Conservatives and say, I don't care about generic. We're harder and tougher on migrants than you are, even though we're still failing to allow any of them in. It is an important point. I've been asking freedom of information requests for God knows how long, Jeremy, now, on this and always been rejected in the sense that it costs too much. We don't have the policy. The police don't do it. I'm glad they are. But when I started to look into the nitty gritty of this, it already seems to me that they're only going to go for those who are on deportation lists. Yeah. So this isn't going to be the full criminal list that they're going to give us. And why? Because they're frightened of the immigration numbers that will show.
Let me put something to you. I remember when little Sunak was the Prime Minister, and there was much talk about Rwanda, and then there was that amazing, if not slightly weird, image one day where he was stood on the street at the steps of Downing Street with the then Prime Minister of Albania, who was about 10'7". It was the most ludicrous photo opportunity, but this had come about. Yeah. This had come about because it transpired that Albanian male criminals, was the majority. There were 8,000 of them in British jails. So Sunak did a deal with Albania to send these people back. Why don't both of our governments, or the last two governments, spend more time doing those sorts of deals with countries so that if there is a migrant crime league table, that they're not in our prisons, but they go back to whence they came? I don't understand. What's a table got to do with finding a solution?
I think this is what they're going to try and suggest in the future, Jeremy, is how they've managed to do it. Because when you look at the numbers of those being returned on the boats, they're generally only Albanians. When you look at those in prisons, we know now that 12% of all our prisons contain non-UK citizens, yep, of which over 50% of them are Albanians. The rest, the top three, are kind of Romanians, followed by Polish, followed by Lithuanians. And that Albanians are far ahead of it in drugs, in child smuggling, in terms of sex offences, in stealing high-end cars, whereas theft is related to the Romanians. So they'll turn around and say, we can do those deals. Why? Because Romania is in the European Union, and obviously Albania, we've already done a deal. But is he going to start removing all of those from Pakistan or Afghanistan or Somalia, all of those criminals? The answer will be no, because as you pointed out, he hasn't done any deals with those countries at all.
Really interesting. Story today as well, the Glasgow, where apparently asylum seekers have been sent in their droves. Isn't it a Labour council in Glasgow? I think it might well be. I don't know. They say, we're so cash-strapped, we're absolutely screwed. Stop sending asylum seekers to us because we can't cope. How soon until more councils say exactly the same to central government, Stephen?
This is the chickens coming home to roost, yep, element. When the SNP were there on the streets of Glasgow saying, we want to have more migrants coming in, when they set up their own little team that said, we want the new Scots. And they wrote a paper saying, we want lots more immigrants, they're going to be the new Scots. And now they're turning around and saying, we can't take any more migrants into it because of firstly, we haven't got enough housing. And secondly, it's causing social distortions, yep, and people are getting really angry. You've got to this state in Glasgow, believe it or not, where you've got Celtic and Rangers fans, the Catholics and the non-Catholic working class estates, all coming together, just as they are in Ireland, by the way, saying, we don't want any more of these. And one of the crucial things comes about their change in the law. What they did in Scotland is they said that anybody who comes into Scotland has a right to housing if they qualify for asylum. They've had 2,000 people from the rest of the country start coming in to Glasgow. They're attracting them.
It is for me, and we have to, and I'd love to talk all day, you know I would. It has to come down to the fact that, you know, people sit and they say to me all the time, we need a deterrent. The deterrent, surely, to those in power should be, stop making it so damn easy for people to come into this country and get more than the people in this country in the first place are even be able to dream about getting. That surely, if you cut out the source of every freebie, whatever the do-gooders tell me, that cures your problem. I keep saying it every day. Saw that footage after the inauguration 3 weeks later in America, and this woman with her family are on the border going, there's no point in going now, we won't get anything and he won't let us in. And I looked at it and went, no, because he said that was what was going to happen. Fact.
Yeah, absolutely. From 200 to 350,000 a month to 8,260 in 3 months, and all of them detained and deported. The border crisis is over in the United States because they had one deterrent: we're sending you back. Our crisis is going to continue because we have no deterrent, and we have come in and we'll give you houses, food, legal fees, health, dentistry, and if you want to take us all the way up to the courts of England, you will get more money there than any of our citizens will do in any case that they want.
You're a legend, mate. Great to have you on. I agree with everything you say. Stephen Wolf on Talk Drive. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
To 5, live across the UK. Delighted to be joined now by Sarah Dittam, who writes for The Times, is a columnist, is also an author. Read a great piece today in The Times. Sarah, good afternoon. Welcome to Drive. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Unhinged trans activists have shown their true colours. I loved what you said. There are two ways of looking at the Supreme Court's judgment in the 4 Women Scotland case. The first is to actually read it. I think you're absolutely right. If you do, you'll find a thorough and considered ruling that balances the rights of women and the rights of trans people under the Equality Act, while reaffirming throughout that both sex and gender reassignment are protected characteristics. But it's your comments about the activists and what people have... I mean, it's almost, as you put, like a new Holocaust. And this is a very, very small minority, but they're incredibly loud, Sarah, aren't they?
It's a very small minority of trans people. There are certainly a lot more people who regard themselves as trans allies and who have aligned themselves with quite an extreme way of thinking about gender and about how that should be represented in law. But also a lot of it, and I think you could really see that in the protests this weekend, is really driven by just straight up misogyny and people who are enjoying saying deeply unpleasant, violent, sexually aggressive things about women because they felt they were entitled to, because they feel they're on the right side of history. And
this is my issue, and listen, you're far more intelligent than me, so I'll try and make this as... because this is one of those subjects you have to really, really sort of tread carefully. But I said earlier as well, I've always been supportive of those women's rights activists who talk about women's rights, but you don't hear a bleeding word from them. When this thing gets hijacked and people are making... And you're actually very right. I'm not sure this has done that much for the genuine cause. But, you know, J.K. Rowling, there were banners at the weekend saying she should be killed. Can somebody please explain to me why the police would do nothing about that? I'm not condoning what happened after the Southport riots, but these people who were labelled far right by our Prime Minister were rounded up, tried and put in jail within 24 hours. And it's OK, is it, for these trans activists to be calling for somebody's death?
I would say is, it isn't on a par with what happened in the Southport riots. We haven't had criminal damage on that scale. It's not.
Well, there was vandalism to things.
But what we have seen, and the police are investigating the vandalism to their credit, they weren't prepared for the protests on the scale that they happened. They should have absolutely managed them more effectively. And it is certainly true that it's a situation where women have suffered really severe consequences in some cases for saying things that have been deemed transphobic. But the kinds of messaging that's been out on the streets this week is considered acceptable or even progressive. And I think that is a situation that we absolutely have to turn around on as a society. This isn't an acceptable state of affairs for people to be out there calling for women to be murdered.
Completely agree. And by the way, I'd like to make the point, no, there's absolutely no comparison. But what I'm talking about is that the sad fact that the police treated both of those very differently. I'm not condoning anything that happens in any way, but to be calling for somebody's death, I would have expected more from my police rather than we're looking into it 2 days later. I believe, unfortunately, there are instances in this country where the police are too scared to act, and that's what I was trying to say to you, really, because the activists, those trans activists, are so loud, and you call it unhinged. It's almost frightening. Why does, do you think, such a small number make such a loud noise, and why are people concerned? So
I think in this case, what's happened is a lot of institutions, including really regrettably trade unions who have allied themselves to this cause and who were out on these protests this weekend. So the UCU, the University and College Union's head, Joe Grady, actually tweeted a picture from the protest saying, "Hate never wins." And, very unfortunately for her, featured in one of the pictures she tweeted was a picture of a gallows and the words, "The only good turf is a dead turf," which she claims not to have seen, and she claims shouldn't distract from the greater message of these protests. But the greater message of the protests really is that outpouring of unpleasantness and hatred. There isn't a policy demand. This is a political cause that did not have a plan for what it would do if it lost at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
On the opposite side, For Women Scotland, the group who brought the legal action that has led to this decision, they did have a plan for what they would do next. Nobody who's serious about politics expects to win every battle or win first time. But in the case of trans activism, it has had this incredibly easy ride for a long time in terms of being able to set up this no debate situation where nobody was allowed to question the claims that trans activism was making, and even to say that you had questions about whether male people should be included in female services could get you called transphobic, racist, all kinds of extremely false charges would be laid at you for saying those things. It's meant that they've had this incredibly easy ride, but as soon as they've come up against actual political opposition and serious legal issues that they've had to confront as a movement, it's not been able to. It was really interesting that Stonewall, which really led the charge for self-ID and for Gender Recognition Act reform, chose not to intervene in the Supreme Court judgment. It could have done. It chose not to. So these organisations have really started to back away. And what's left is this sort of mass of popular rage that we saw in the streets this week.
Just very quickly, I'd love to have more time. Fascinating, and I mean that to speak to you. Where does the opposition to this ruling, where does it go from here? They say this weekend pro-trans protests could continue, spread across the country, whether the police act more decisively. Sarah, where do you think it ends?
I think there will be more protests. I think, though, that any movement that doesn't have an actual aim, and in this case, it's really not clear what the aim is, except to say horrible things about J.K. Rowling as much as possible, eventually is going to peter out and run out of energy. So unless the trans activist movement is able to, reorganise itself to actually ask for things that are good for trans people rather than just attacking women, I think it's going to, become irrelevant very quickly.
Please do come on again. Fascinating. Wish we had more time. Thank you so much indeed. Sarah Didham writes for The Times, is a columnist and also an author, talking there. Got a great piece in The Times. Go online and read it. The unhinged trans activists have shown their true colours. This is Talk Drive.
You can pretty much guarantee most years somebody will be murdered.
Yes.
Now,
there were 2 last year, I think, weren't there?
Yeah, so somebody name me another event anywhere in the country where it's pretty much guaranteed there will be murder and those events are allowed to continue.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about drug deaths at festivals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
an organised
murder.
event.
Yeah, an organised event where murder is most likely to happen, because I can't think of another one.
Why has this industry been banned? As a result of banning fracking on Britain, we're just becoming more reliant on imports. We're consuming shale gas, frack gas from the US instead. And of course, there's a net increase in global carbon emissions as a result of that, because, you know, as I said...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Round You Up, 5 to 5. What is a man? We thought we'd ask, what is a man? I love this from Cliff in Berkshire. What is a man? What has he got? If he is married, then he hasn't got a lot. Yeah, that's true. Martin's in Pontefract. What is a man? A man's a man, not a woman. That's the way it is. Lovely. Debbie, you can't define a man because the men in this country won't want to be bunched in with Starmer. That's very interesting. What is a man? I'm a man. I light the barbecue when it's pouring with rain in Portishead, and I refuse to give in and stay out there till it's done. Is that what a man is? Oh, hello. Kev in Luton. A man is not a woman. Brilliant. I thought, is that what he's got on holiday, Kev O'Sullivan? Talk, what is a man? I am a man. Yes, we've done that one, you idiot. Jez, what is a man? A person who has the rollicks to stand for his country first before anything else. So based on that definition, there are no men in the government. Steve's in Cleethorpes. I went there once. It was closed. A man can wear a T-shirt stating, "Oh, git, a woman cannot possibly do this." I've no idea why. Brian Goodwin. Jezza, a biological man does what a biological woman tells him to do. You see, we're getting to it now. Absolutely. You're right there. Lauren's in Peterborough. A man is someone who takes the bins out and picks up the dog poo. That sounds very much like you've got a husband. A man is someone who's always wrong even when he's right. Now we're getting there. That's absolutely right. If you've been married, that's spot on. Caroline, as a woman, I would not dare tell a man what he is or is supposed to be. It is a shame that the same courtesy cannot be given to women. And we're told to put up or shut up, but we're not going to do it anymore. Oh, burn your bra time. Brian Good. Oh, France is the key. I'm not interested in the boats. I'm interested in what is a man. Let's go to Hereford. Race meeting there this afternoon. Simon, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
What is a man?
Right, I think we should forget the man and woman.
Oh.
We should say male and female.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Why?
So a male is born with a penis.
Oh.
A woman, a female is born with a cervix. What do we call it? Cervix.
A cervix?
Well, you know.
Should we say honestly, it sounds like a vessel. A cervix, man, not a cervix. A cervix.
Well, it could be like a submarine. Come on.
I am not getting into whether a woman's cervix is like a submarine. I'm trying to do How did that happen? Right, crack on.
Okay. So a man, I've met plenty of men who have
a penis.
Bits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, penis.
Yeah.
Who aren't really a man.
Right.
And
have you ever met a woman with a submarine?
I've fallen in a couple of times.
Brilliant, goodbye. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to High Barnet. Paula, hello.
Hello, my lovely.
Hello, my lovely, all right? I've never known a man say a cervix. How's your cervix? I didn't mean to ask you that. I'm just saying, yes, there we are. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you, my lovely? You okay?
Why are you calling me lovely? What are you after? What's going on?
You're lovely.
I'm a very shy person who just.
You're very lovely. I do like watching you and listening to you. Just so you know.
Okay, slightly weird. How's your? No, not. I mean, what's a man? Stop laughing, woman. You haven't seen me naked yet. Crack on. Come on.
A man's a man who will man up to what a woman is.
What?
And defend a woman.
Say that again. What?
A man's a man. A man is a man who will stand up. A man is a man who will man up.
Yes.
Who will man up to what a woman is, so we can count Keir Starmer out of that.
Well, my dad taught me that a man is a proper man if he treats a woman properly. So genuinely opens a car door, lets a woman go in front out of a lift. But it would be fair to say if you're a man, it's quite confusing because nowadays you can do that and be called a sexist git. So it is quite frightening as to know how to behave correctly.
Lovely.
Brilliant. It's been great. Two of the most inspiring conversations I've ever had on the phone. Thank you very much indeed. What were they on? Don't put Georgina on. She'll be telling me what she's cooking for tea, and that'll wind me right up because it's 5 o'clock and there's no Jodie today. We've got Faith. Faith doing a great job, but I've got to be saying slightly slow on the tea production. Absolutely sod on the biscuit front, not looking great. But that is the first hour, dusted and done. So much to talk about. What do you make of it? The Prime Minister's finally come out and said, yes, the Supreme Court has made it clear when it comes to the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. But hold on a minute, Dreary Slammer. Dreary Slammer? 3 years ago, he said, trans women are women as well. He's done a full 360 or 180 or whatever. Pro-trans protests set to continue over the weekend. What do you make of that? Does it do the trans movement any good? Is it just thuggery and vandalism and hooliganism? Has it been hijacked? And the Chancellor has been told by the IMF today, you're out of your depth, love. You've either got to hike taxes or cut public services. You've ruined the economy. You've only been in the job a year minimum. Rachel thieves, it's time to go. They didn't say that. I said that. Also, our question for Drive. Forget a woman can't have a penis. What's a man? What is a man, my friends? 87222. Start your message with the word talk. While you work that out, we'll do the news at 5. Next on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, hour 2 of Drive for Tuesday. We're live across the UK. This is, of course, the home of Mike Graham in the morning. Mike Graham's Morning Glory here tomorrow from 6 o'clock. It's the only way to wake up. The rest of them are a load of old rubbish. Mike Graham tomorrow morning. Please, please tune in. What can I say? Big U-turn, which reminds me of the Jethro joke I'm not allowed to do. Big U-turn. By Starmer today, who now says that a woman is a biological woman, whereas 3 years ago he said a trans woman is a woman as well. Well, that's gone out the window. We thought we'd have a bit of fun, because let's be honest, it can be quite tedious talking about the same thing all the time. So Ryan, top producer, lanky to his mates, wants to know what you think a man is. What is a man? What has he got, if not himself? You see, I could have... No. Wayne says, the man is the one with a flat cap, and the woman's the one in the curlers. That's interesting. I like this, Claire. A man is someone who knows what a woman's body parts are called, not like your last caller. If you missed our last caller, he thought a man has a penis and a woman has a cervix. That was what he described, the cervix. I'll never be able to look. Never mind. Nathan says, Faith, I know you're in for Jodie this week, but could you get JK some biscuits? Because he sounds like he's going to burst. Rich is in Dudley. All right. Rich says, I think everyone has started drinking early and ringing in. I don't bloody blame them. The world's gone nuts. 0344 499 1000. So from you guys, what is a man? Your definition. So much about this conflicting view of Starmer and the trans activists and the protests. We've always tried on this show to encourage talent, creativity, and save unelectable MPs from a career of working in Little Chef. We say a very good afternoon to a man who has risen. Like, I can't really describe Nigel Evans. He's like Lazarus. How are you? Nigel, good afternoon, sir. Or
I'm
Lazarus.
alive. I'm alive. It's another miracle.
Are you still writing that bloody book?
Yes, I am, actually. I'm on chapter 8 now. I'm just dealing with the Brighton bomb in 1984, 12th of October, because I was in the Grand Hotel when the bomb went off.
Were you really?
Yeah. So I'm going into some detail about how my reaction was to what went on, and it's great actually going back over some of the footage, particularly of Margaret Thatcher speaking at the conference the next day when everybody thought that the conference would be cancelled. No, she took to the stage. She was absolutely...
to have a leader who had a pair. Talking of which, don't want to ruin your afternoon's writing. Starmer has finally broken his silence on the Supreme Court ruling from 5 days ago, which says the Supreme Court judge looks very clear that when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman and can't have a penis, Nigel Evans. You try saying that with a straight face. Today, he agrees with that, whereas 3 years ago he told The Times that a woman is a female adult, and in addition, a trans women are women, and that is not just my view, it's actually the law. We thought we'd have a bit of fun and ask what a bloke is, because it's all getting a bit deep for me, but this is sensible. And I must say, for him, I mean, he can't win now, can he? Because he took 5 days to say anything, and he'll be accused of being pressurised in it, and people will say you don't actually believe this. But it's common sense, and it's prevailed. But do you think the world's laughing at us that it's taken 5 years for this rubbish to actually just be told as it is to people?
Yeah, and didn't he actually come out famously when asked again about this issue, which clearly he would prefer not to be? He said, well, of course, 99.9% of women do not have a penis. I mean, I've got a good idea. Maybe it should be 100%.
Yes.
You know, the courts have actually saved him, and this is what's happened now, Jeremy. Let's be frank. He's now saying the courts have clarified the situation, as if he needed any clarification as to what was a man and what was a woman. It was ridiculous. They got themselves into all sorts of problems, as did Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP.
I was going to say they got their knickers in a knot, but that might be all. I don't know what's going on down there.
Yeah,
but isn't it interesting?
Did you see Rowling got it right?
Did you see over the weekend as well from your botthole that there is already, they believe, a WhatsApp group in Parliament of MPs and frontbench cabinet ministers who are trying to work out, bet I can guess who they are, how they can row back against the Supreme Court judgment. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I think they should listen to their leader, Keir Starmer, who is now grateful that the courts have clarified the situation as to what a man is and what a woman is, and he can now quietly shut up on that issue, because that's what he's going to do. And if his members decide to set up a WhatsApp group, and the one thing I've learned after 32 years of being a member of Parliament is nothing leaks more than a WhatsApp group. Then you can enjoy reading these private messages back and forth, because somebody's going to leak them, and we'll be able to discover the inner thoughts of some of these wonderful people who are now in Parliament legislating on our behalf. I mean, they would be stupid to go back and break over this the coals of this one. Let's put it to rest.
Can I ask you, serious from me actually, we've talked about how this very, I mean, we just had the excellent Sarah Didamon, who wrote for The Times and talked about how unhinged trans activists have shown their true colours, that actually if you read the ruling by the Supreme Court, and I think this is a really important point, it balances the rights of women and the rights of trans people under the Equality Act, whilst reaffirming throughout that both sex and gender reassignment are protected characteristics in law. To you, one question. Why do such a small minority, or why are such a small minority able to make such a loud noise, and why is it acceptable on Saturday for trans activists to walk through London with banners saying J.K. Rowling should die and the police are merely looking into it? That is beyond me, Nigel. That smacks of we're scared of the kickback we'll get, and then we come back to, so how are we ruling this country with the police then? We just arrest people who we don't think will kick back or are not a minority group? That's ludicrous.
Yeah, I'm seeing this footage for the first time. It's passed me by over Easter, I must say. And it's always good. You say it was on a Saturday when nobody's in Parliament, and it was Easter, for them to be there. Quite frankly, if you're looking for a hate crime, then anybody who's carrying a banner saying that and suggesting that J.K. Rowling should die, I would have thought that the police, they normally spring into action pretty quickly.
Well, they released a statement on Bank Holiday Monday, I should tell you, which says we're looking into it. My argument is, and I'm not condoning what happened after the Southport riots, some of that was abhorrent, but every single person who dared to take to the streets to complain about what went on was immediately labelled a far-right thug and was rounded up, tried and put in prison within 24 hours, many of whom deserved it. But you're going to allow these people to walk with banners saying, kill J.K. Rowling, and you're merely looking into it. No wonder that people are beginning to think the police have different agendas for different groups of people.
Yeah, two-tier policing, absolutely. No. Anybody who suggests, I mean, could you imagine if you are J.K. Rowling? She actually spoke a lot of common sense and has gone through a lot of criticism, even by the people who she helped make famous by writing those books in the first place. And she's come out and it has been proven by the Supreme Court to have spoken common sense, and what she said is basically what they have said. Could you imagine how it must feel for her, though? When she knows that there are people who are able to parade around Westminster holding banners saying that she should die. Really? I think that is absolutely appalling, and I think the police ought to get more than saying that they're looking into it. By now, they should really have found out who that person was, and having more than a strong word with them, quite frankly. It's quite appalling. What they are doing. And even I think I've seen a photograph in one paper today of some of them standing outside toilets, female toilets, protesting. I mean, please get a life.
I go further. I want to know where all those women's activists, because essentially, as Sarah Dittam said, you could look on some of that as misogyny, which is men being absolutely abhorrent to women. Where are all those female women's rights activists who quite rightly have been talking about what's right and wrong for women to be treated as? They disappear. There's a fear amongst people about this trans situation, and that to me is not fair. Let's bring you on to another one of your favourite subjects. I love having you on, man. I'm not too sure about the shirt today. Rachel Thieves, or Richard III, has today, I mean, summarily been completely poleaxed, excuse the French, by the IMF, who have rather remarkably said, basically, you've run out of manoeuvre. You've only been in the job 10 months. You're pretty crap at it because you've either got to raise taxes or cut spending. That's how bad a job you've done. That is pretty damning, Nigel, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, let's be fair. The growth rate of 1.6% is hardly anything to write home about. And then you get the IMF saying, no, forget that. We're going to chop it by another 0.5%. At the same time, unemployment's going up. We're being told by them that inflation's going to rise in the United Kingdom. And we've got the fastest number of firms closing in the UK since 2010 and the financial crisis that was taking place then. And all of this is a crisis definitely made at number 11 because of the stupidity of that last budget, putting up taxes for particularly small firms, but also this other thing about how many rich people have been frightened away from the United Kingdom. It's over 13,000 millionaires have now left the United Kingdom, going to Dubai, going to Italy, going to Monaco, going anywhere but here. When they're here in the United Kingdom, they are paying taxation. Absolutely. And the government is now losing billions of pounds worth of taxation simply because of their hatred of anybody who has made any money. I mean, also,
Nigel, there's one-dimensional answer. You will know this, we're the same age. One-dimensional answer that the Labour governments have had across the decades, which is, we've only got one answer. We're going to charge rich people more tax and attempt to give it to everybody else, but there still won't be enough, so we'll either raise taxes or print money, and we'll screw and bankrupt the country as they've done every single time they've been in power. And you won't mind me saying this because you're a commentator now. That is how bad a job the Tories did to allow this bunch of... I think they're appalling. That's how much the British public had stopped listening to your party, that this lot have got a massive majority. They don't even look like they've got a clue, man. Seriously.
Yeah, I know, but the writing's on the wall. They've got they are confusing their majority with a mandate, Jeremy. They have no mandate. They got 34% in the polls in that general election less than a year ago. So they haven't got a mandate. They've got a supermajority. And if they want to abuse that supermajority, which they are doing, then get on with it. But if they think in 2029 they have got the slenderest chance of becoming the government of the country, then think again. And yeah, I'll say it, I've said it before on your show, I'm terribly sorry at how we performed since 2019. We had a big majority, we threw it away. We should have done much, much better. And quite frankly, what's followed us, I've never seen a new government perform so badly so quickly.
I completely agree with that. Me too. And you know, I've said my piece to you about being a Tory voter. The Tories lost my vote for reasons I've gone into. It'll be very interesting. The other thing, again, you talk about like. Somebody said earlier about nobody on the Labour front bench has ever worked in business or done anything successful. You look at Reeves, who could be sacked, Miliband, who's off his rocker and should be sacked, Lammy, who's just eating his way through the Foreign Office. This is another thing. I mean, extraordinary. I mean, they came to power. I wasn't a fan of Rwanda, but it was a suggested deterrent. I know how to stop the boat, stop making it so easy to be given everything here. Just throw them out. You know, you're not having it. You're not having anything. Stay on the beach. Here's the interesting thing. They came to power saying they were going to crush the gangs. Nothing's happened on that front. More and more boats are coming, more and more migrants. Her answer today, Mrs. Balls, is that the nationalities of migrants with the highest rates of crime will be revealed in an official league table by the end of this week. So we're going to get a league table, Nigel, that will tell us, of all the migrants who are here, who are the worst of the lot. Not a document that says we're going to stop the boats and send these people back home. That's all we're getting from this government.
Yeah, I want to see a league table of us as to how many we are actually stopping. That would be the most interesting league table to see. We've got the perverse situation of them scaring away millionaires who pay tax in this country and allowing people to come here on boats who are now going to then cost us billions of pounds. I think it's something like £8 billion a year, because they have to be put in hotels, they're not allowed to work, and they need to be looked after. I mean, it's it is Alice in Wonderland politics from a government that, quite frankly, got it wrong from day one when they started to take off the winter fuel allowances from old age pensioners in this country. And by the way, I understand that pensioners from the United Kingdom who live in the European Union still get those winter fuel payments. How absurd is that? And as I say, they've got everything wrong. And Rachel Reeves is partly responsible, if not wholly responsible, for the fact that we have got inflation going up, we've got unemployment going up, we've got record firms now closing in the United Kingdom, and the economy is tanking. And it's appalling. It is absolutely appalling.
Is she out of her depth, Nigel?
Well, you asked about, you don't know what they did in their previous lives before they became members of Parliament or ministers. Well, it's pointless looking at their CVs, isn't it, Jeremy? Because that's not going to give us any indication as to exactly what they did.
Well, Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, lied about being a solicitor. She said she was an economist when she was an accounts clerk, wasn't she? I mean, the whole thing is farcical. And you do... Listen, this is not in any way, and we've been really honest about this, saying that what came before was any good, because at the end it was so bad and the British public had so stopped listening that this shower were allowed to get in. But you just... Wherever you turn, the Supreme Court takes 5 days for that to be agreed. Migrant lead tables, the IMF kicking them. The irony. I said this to one of my other guests today. Yesterday, when we were doing the show, they were talking about how a group of MPs, I presume Labour MPs amongst it, were actively attempting to stop Donald Trump from addressing the House of Parliament because he's a liar. Well, if I was a pensioner, if I was a waspy lady, if I was a veteran, or if I was a farmer, I'd feel this government had, or even me, I'd feel this government had lied their teeth out to me from the first moment they got elected. And that's true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everything that they said in the 2024 manifesto, or in many cases didn't say, but inferences were there that they said they were going to look after the farmers. Well, they're certainly not doing that. They said that they were going to look after small businesses and then put up taxation upon them. They said they were going to look after the waspy women, which I think is one of the most horrific things, because they lined up to be photographed with waspy women and smiling, giving every indication that they were going to get their money, and they just turned around and said, no, you're not. I think it is absolutely appalling what they've done, and their track record is one of total deceit since the general election. I mean, they've got no lessons to take against Donald Trump, quite frankly. And some of them have said, well, hardly any of them are going to turn up. Well, I've got a good idea. If Keir Starmer, there's not a chance that His Majesty has done this on his own. This has come from Downing Street. They want Trump over here to the United Kingdom in order that we can cozy up to them, hopefully get this trade deal. This is one of the reasons why Rachel Reeves is in Washington at the moment. Although it does seem to me as if there's no joined up government, because you've got her trying to cozy up to the United States and do a trade deal. You've got Nick Thomas Simmons, a Labour minister in Brussels, trying to give away as many concessions as he possibly can to the European Union in order for us to do a trade deal with them. I mean, literally, he's gone there with a white flag, waving them to Brussels and saying, what do you want? Do you want our fishing rights? Yeah, come on then, here we go. I think it's absolutely appalling. But you can't do a proper deal with America and the European Union at the same time, because they just don't work. So let's have a little bit of joined up thinking by the government. And I should forget about Donald Trump if I was them. He's been invited to come through the auspices of Keir Starmer. And if they don't want to listen to him, there's a ton of people who do. And just remember that 34% of Brits voted Labour, and it was something like 48%. It was an incredible result for...
First time the popular vote had been won in 40 or 50 years or something. You're dead right. So we've interrupted you writing your book. You're on chapter 8. I'm writing mine. I've written 12,000 words. Am I in yours? Has he gone? Honestly, he's literally frozen at that moment. That's a fix. Honestly. He's pushed the button to leave. That's an outrageous way to treat somebody who saved your career. The excellent. I love him. Every week we're going to have him on. Nigel Evans, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons, there on Talk Drive, 5:22. We're live across the UK. So much you want to talk about. Absolutely conflicting Keir, pro-trans protests. You can talk about Chancellor Rachel Reeves being put down by the IMF, or you can concentrate entirely on what Ryan wants you to concentrate is on the day that Keir Starmer says a woman is a biological woman. We ask the question, my friends, what is a man? What is a man? What has he got? 8722. We will fight them on the Texas. Back in 3.
It's a bit like, ambulance drivers putting fires out, isn't it? It would be the same thing. Stick in your lane, police, and stop meddling with this. We all know, really, what this is about. It's a hangover from COVID. It is a means of exercising power and authority on the part of senior police officers, and indeed, I'm sure, fuelled by government. The government loved it during the riots in the summer, didn't they? That they could impose such things, non-crime hate incidents on people.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5:25. You're very welcome to Talk Drive. That rhymed, didn't it? 5:25, you work. I don't know what's happened today. 0344 499 1000 is my telephone number. Text to 87222. On the day that Keir Starmer admits that a woman is a biological woman, we ask the important question, what is a man? What has he got? If not him, you know what I'm saying. A man, says Michelle, is someone Keir Starmer isn't, as he's got no balls. Brilliant. Snowy, really? Jezza, Reg from Southampton here. What is a man? A man can walk down the road with a bald head, a beard belly and tattoos and still think he looks attractive to the opposite sex. Right? You might have heard a caller earlier where a man was, he called it a cervix. I don't think he knew it was a cervix. Anyway, he said a cervix. And this is very interesting. Text says, The Civics, latest V8 petrol car from Citroen. Citroen Civics. It's all going to happen. It's all going to kick off. Alex, Jeremy, a man is a male of the human species with a penis who weighs 100 kilograms, can squat 1.5 times his body weight, bench 1.25 his body weight, deadlift 2 times his body weight, treats women with decency and respect, and will defend her with his life if necessary. Oh, get you. Go and work out, big lad. Peter Stone, a man is a man who has the good sense to say yes, dear, and of course you're right, dear. Do you know what? I bet Pete in Croydon's been married a long time because you are right, dear. Treacle. Who calls himself Treacle in Bridgend? My man is an adult human male and is my hero, my friend and my inspiration, and a pain in my butt when he doesn't put the loose seat down. Why don't men put the loose seat down? Rich, Jez, your last guest said, let's be frank. Is that actually allowed, bearing in mind that we... Quite possibly not. Jez, you are making my blood boil today with all this common sense. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'll just go woke again then. There are nearly 70 million people in this country, so how is it that this one woman, Rachel Thieves, is allowed to continue to destroy us and we do nothing? Do we get to the stage where Donald buys the country for £1 before she's kicked out? I think she... Honestly, I'm not even just saying it. I think that Healy's a good defence secretary. I don't like Starmer, but I genuinely believe that Rachel Thieves, Ed Millipede and that Lammy are dangerous and unqualified. Let's go to London. Ricky! Ricky!
Hey!
Ricky! How are you, son?
Hey, Chizza.
Oi, oi!
Oi, oi. Right, someone said something to me which made me realise how ridiculous all this trans ideology is. Someone said to me, the prerequisite for being a trans woman is that you have to be a man. You literally cannot be a trans woman unless you are a man. So that just makes me realise how ridiculous it all is. Also, are you there?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to...
Right.
Well, don't ask me something and then not let me answer, because then I'll give the...
Sorry. I'm used to Julie Rightly-Blue and all the others really
Sorry?
just diving in. I'm used to all the others diving in and not letting me get a word in.
I'm not diving anywhere. Go on.
Yeah. So what concerns me? So regarding this the Supreme Court hearing, the battle's won. The game is over. There's no going back. Right.
Yep.
So this is quite worrying with all these national protests. This is really concerning because now what we need to do, we need to protect women. Remember during the war when the men went to war and the women stayed at home, they made the munitions, they did everything to help the men that went to war. Shouldn't it be the opposite now?
Well, you know what's really interesting? What's really interesting is actually what Sarah Didham, who writes for the Times and is an author, said about 45 minutes ago on this programme, because she wrote a really interesting article in the Times today, Unhinged Trans Activists Have Shown Their True Colours. She was saying that in essence there are many, many women who consider what's going on. Oh, get him in. He's got to come in about what is a man, what has he got, right? Mike Graham's on the way. Is actually, you could say it's misogyny, right, by men against women. I just don't believe that it is acceptable for people to walk down the road with banners saying, kill J.K. Rowling. I've got to move on. Ricky in London. Let's go to South End. Dave, you're on Talk Drive. Hello.
Mr. Kyle.
Oh, Mr. Kyle. Yeah.
Can we just... I'm getting sick and tired of the media going on about this trans thing. There's more important things going on in this country than bleating on about trans. I'm sick and tired of it, and I'm sure loads of people up and down the country
What do you want me to talk about then?
Anything other. See, that is where the problem is. You're going on about the trans movement. What it is who shouts the loudest. Now, if you stop giving them oxygen like you did with Just Stop Oil, they go away.
Right, what is a man? What is a man then? What is a man?
Biological man has got a pair of fruit and nuts, and a woman has got a vagina and can bear children.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Well, earlier on we had a man who said a woman is a person with a cervix. Hold on, we've got Bridget Phillipson in pink. Why are we listening to her? What the education secretary? Oh, right, this is Bridget Phillipson. What is a woman? This will be fun. Have a listen.
Single-sex spaces based on biological sex, now with the added clarity of this ruling. And we will continue our wider work with commitment, with compassion, to protect all of those who need it right across society. Because, Madam Deputy Speaker, This is a government that will support the rights of women and trans people now and always. This is a government that will support the rights of all people with protected characteristics now and always. This is a government that will support the rights of our most vulnerable now and always. And on that, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is no change to announce. Dignity and respect for all now and always. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a judgment long in the making. It began in 2018, when Scottish ministers issued guidance on the definition of a woman in the eyes of the Gender Representation on Public Boards Act. That guidance stated that a woman in that Act bears the same meaning as a woman in the Equality Act 2010 and included trans women with a gender recognition certificate. For Women, Scotland challenged this guidance, saying that sex in the Equality Act means biological sex, so that a trans woman...
That's interesting. Get rid of it! Get rid of it! Get rid of it! Not interested. Sorry, can't be doing with it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, that's Bridget Phillipson making excuses. You should see the pictures of the front bench. Anyway, we welcome to Studio One... Oh, my mucker's in. Michael Graham.
G'day.
What? See, we're doing it differently.
Yes.
I'm sick and tired of this.
Yeah.
What is a man?
What is a man?
What has he got, if not himself?
Indeed.
How would you define a man, Mike Graham?
Is not. I would say a man is all about being strong.
Yeah.
About being virile.
Virile?
About being a leader.
Yeah.
About being a game changer.
Yes.
And about being, you know, somebody who is a good father.
Yes.
And about somebody who can...
A good husband.
Be a good husband. Not always, but, you know, that would be good. And I think...
Gloss over that.
And I think it's all about strength and charity as well.
Do you think that the rest of the world is looking at this country that you and I love so much thinking, let me get this absolutely right. It took them 5 years and millions of pounds to say that a woman... Right, a man is not a woman.
Yes.
A woman doesn't have a penis.
Right.
We've now got a Prime Minister who's done a full 360.
Yeah.
Today he said a woman is a biological woman, whereas 3 years ago he said trans women are women.
And he wasn't sure. Yeah, and he said at one point, you know, I believe that trans rights are human rights. And he repeated it, and he said it over and over again.
Does he not think that we're going to remember that?
Well, I don't understand why he thinks he can just U-turn on absolutely everything and make out that he still believes it now as much as he did before. Because you can't believe in both. You can't have just changed your mind on everything.
No.
Which is what
goes
he's
to
done.
prove exactly what he is.
I don't think he's a man. How about
Don't
that?
you?
Yeah, Keir Starmer is not a man.
Has he got a
There you go.
cervix?
No, I think he doesn't have the instincts of a man, he doesn't have the leadership skills of a man, and I think he doesn't have the kind of cojones of a man.
I went for lunch today with an incredibly successful friend of mine who built an aviation business from scratch.
Yeah.
And you know, he is... probably one of the coolest people I know. And do you know who his all-time hero is?
No.
You.
No.
He spent the entire lunchtime going, can I please meet Mike? And I went, yeah, of course you can. He's a legend.
Listen,
and he
I'm
went, I
available
love
for
it.
lunch.
He said, I'm putting... This is honestly true, right? There's no... He said, I'm putting one of those bumper stickers on the Bentley.
Brilliant.
How good is that?
Tell him he's got to take a picture of that.
We've got to get it in.
Fantastic.
So what a day. Not only has
Yeah.
Starmer done a 360,
Yeah.
Let's talk about the IMF, who
Yes.
this afternoon or this morning have said that our Prime Minister... No, our Rachel Thieves...
Rachel Thieves is now in Washington, D.C. attempting to presumably destabilise the American economy.
Having ruined
ours.
She's been told there's no room to manoeuvre. You've either got to raise taxes or destroy still further public spending because you've messed up the economy in 9 short months.
And do you know what she's going to say? She's going to say, oh,
Hello?
but this has nothing to do with me.
No.
This is all to do with the Trump's tariffs.
Oh.
But she's not really allowed to say that, of course, because Keir
She's in
Starmer
America.
will say, no, but Keir Starmer will say, don't slag off Trump, whatever you do.
We need a deal.
So now she doesn't know what to do. So she's stuck, basically, and I don't know why she's bothered going. Because all she's done by going there is to highlight how useless she is.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I was saying just now, but before you came in, think about it. We've got a foreign secretary who is completely inept and said that the green climate agenda is more important than the Ukraine-Russian war.
He also thinks that you can grow a cervix.
No,
David
a
Lammy.
cervix.
A cervix.
Well, Blake came on, he went, yeah, well, I've got a penis and my missus has got a cervix. And we all went, I think you'll find it's cervix.
I thought it was a Citroen.
That's
Wasn't it?
exactly
It's a French car.
The new Civics.
Yes.
Petrol editions available
Yes.
and automatic Civixes. You've thrown me completely.
Sorry.
Lammy, useless.
Yeah,
right?
well, Lammy's the guy. He says you can grow a cervix.
Millipede, frightening.
Yeah, frightening.
And
what about
Rachel
Millipede's
Reid?
mate, the bloke who's gone 40,000 air miles in
This is brilliant.
in a
Tell
year,
them this story.
where he's gone to Abu Dhabi, he's gone to Barbados, he's gone to Azerbaijan. He's also signed a letter urging the government to put a tax on flying for ordinary people because the ordinary people shouldn't be allowed to fly. He's okay. What's his name?
Ed Miliband's climate advisor racks up 40,000 air miles whilst backing tax on frequent flyers.
Yeah. Really?
Can I just... Is it just me? I mean, I know we spend most days... But they are probably, and we had to suffer the Tories, the most incompetent bunch of idiots, aren't they?
And also, worse than that, they're hypocritical, they're hateful, they don't like Britain, they don't like anybody British, they don't like anything that in any way proves that that Britain was a great country in the past.
Not proud of us,
They're not proud of our history. They're not proud of what we are famous for. They're not proud of our historical figures, you know. And they've brought us to this place because it's all the lefties, let's face it, who have
we apologise for them.
No, but also have adopted this nonsense about trans rights.
Yeah,
you know,
I've got a great story for you, which has not just come to me because I was going to ring you privately. So, you know, Vic's dad, Robin, who listens every day, is old school. He lives, I can't tell you where, but he lives in an area of this country where the council let it be known that if people put St George's Day flags up, there is every a chance that it could be reported as a hate crime and the police could come round. So tomorrow morning, on video for me, and we'll do it with you as well, he's going to put one up.
On St George's Day?
On St George's Day tomorrow, because apparently that can be racist or it can be a nightmare.
That's ridiculous.
But the Irish and the Scots and the Welsh can be proud of who they are. We're not allowed to be. I think it's an absolute disgrace. I hope the police try and do something to Rob's flag tomorrow because I'm going to go full tear. It's appalling, isn't it?
It is ridiculous, and that's the trouble. This is where we have got to, and I guarantee you, whether or not you can tell us where it is, that there'll be a Labour council involved.
There is a Labour council,
you know, because they're the ones who are pushing this rubbish.
He's absolutely... Oh, this is interesting for you. J.K. Rowling has just released a statement.
She's great.
Do you know this woman?
Brilliant.
Don't give her. Does she?
You know, she could be a man.
She said about Keir Starmer in the last 10 seconds. Imagine being such a coward you can only muster the courage to tell the truth once the Supreme Court has ruled on what the truth actually is.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, that brilliant.
And he hasn't even got the cojones to
We're
stand
back there
up.
again.
He hasn't got the cojones to stand up in Parliament as the leader of this nation. He leaves it to Bridget Phillipson, a woman, because
who wants his job.
Because he can't bring himself to admit that he was wrong. And that's another thing that real men do. Real men can admit when they're wrong.
I've been wrong.
He can't.
We can't see, I mean, you can't see, but there's Bridget Phillipson is in a pink jacket and sat down on the front bench is another woman in the... Is that her mother?
I don't know who that is.
I think if you're tuning in, it does look like her mother. Bridget Phillipson's bought... Is it Bring Your Mother to
Could be
Commons?
Bring Your Mother to the Commons Day. I don't wish to be unkind, but it wasn't the best choice of whoever it was to have her sit. Isn't Starmer there sitting behind her? You know,
you won't see him for toast, mate.
Yeah.
And actually, what somebody said about...
He was embarrassed. You know what? He went out this morning stupidly thinking that he could launch free school meals for everyone, which, by the way, nobody wants, because all that's happening is that you and I, as taxpayers, are paying money to people who don't need it, or for people who are so feckless they can't give their kids food before they go to school. Why are we paying for that?
Yeah, the problem I have this argument, and I got into an argument once with somebody who said, you don't know what you're talking about. I am all for helping people who can't help themselves. But I tell you what, I once did a programme, I won't name where it was, Preston, and I lived on benefits for a week.
I remember this.
And every morning at 7 o'clock I was in the street with a camera crew. Very interesting how many houses had Sky dishes, very interesting how many houses had new cars, and very interesting how many people weren't out of bed looking for a job. And I'm being completely honest. So those people, a lot of them, should stop smoking and drinking and actually give their kids bloody breakfast.
Exactly.
That's also, it's about priorities, isn't it?
If you can't give your children food before they go to school, I'm afraid you're a bad parent. They should be called bad parents, and maybe they should be brought in and told, if you can't look after your own children, we'll take them off you.
I think tomorrow, on St George's Day, we need to erect as many flags. I mean, I'm really strong about the St George's Day thing, aren't you? It's outrageous.
I'll tell you what I was quite surprised about. I was in Oxford Street today, and they've actually got Union Jacks hanging up.
Wow.
Which I haven't seen for a very long time. I was just trying to... I mean, that shows you how far we've gone in this country. I was actually shocked to see Union Jacks hanging above Oxford Street.
It's the only way to wake up. My entire family are obsessed, and now my best friend, you're his hero, which is brilliant. Mikey, back tomorrow morning. Mike Graham's early... What is Morning Glory?
Morning Glory.
Who came up with that idea?
It was actually the guys downstairs in the imaging department, some very funny, clever people who came up with it and said, this is definitely... You've got to call it this. And apparently some people thought I might not like it. But obviously it's great.
Mike loves everything. We're back in 3. I'm off for a wee. Cheers.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to See My Face. It's because Mike Graham has made me laugh again. 16 minutes to 6. He's back tomorrow morning in 12 hours and 16 minutes with The Only Way to Wake Up. 0344 499 1000. Your text, please, 87222. Emily says, a man is someone who is good for procreation and heavy haulage. Brilliant. As described by my late mother of 89, says Emily. Hi, just Claire from sunny Bognor Regis. A man is a man who puts his fingers in his ears and sings la, la, la whenever you talk to him. Very interesting. Here's a proper man. 5:45. Ben Habib, former MET and Brexiteer. How are you, sir?
Good evening. Very well indeed, thank you. How are you, Jeremy?
Well, I'm all right, but I've decided to go a bit rogue today because I'm bored of all this rubbish on the day that Keir Starmer's finally worked out that a woman is a biological woman and a trans woman can't be a woman. I'm asking the question, what is a man? So, Benjamin Habib, slightly tongue-in-cheek, what is a man, in your opinion, my friend?
I like the definition you gave earlier of someone who can bench press, multiple of his weight and squat with 100 kg or whatever it was on his shoulders. And I think that would be a real, huge, powerful man. But I mean, I think anyone that possesses the requisite chromosomes and the tackle required to classify as a man is a man.
I said to my dad once, what's a man? He went, well, I'll tell you what a married man is. Somebody who goes deaf after 6 weeks and didn't say anything for 60 years. I don't know if that's true. Talking about Starmer, though, Ben, and we're going to do a couple of bits with you, if that's OK. It is extraordinary, and there's a part of me that came in today and thought, you can't win if you're now Starmer. If you say nothing, you get slaughtered. If you do something. But he's hidden behind this judgment, and it's just taken him 5 days. 3 years ago, he said, a woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women, and that is not just my view, that is actually the law. I stood downstairs at Talk when Piers Morgan looked him straight in the eye in the days of talkTV and said, can a woman have a penis? And he couldn't answer it. Today, a spokesman for him said, a woman is a biological woman. That's the law. What does he actually genuinely believe, Ben? Are we any clearer on what he believes to be the truth?
Well, we're not clearer, and the fact that the Prime Minister needs a Supreme Court ruling to tell him what a woman is, I think, a reflection on the state of the nation, the state of governance in this country. We've been hijacked by ridiculous ideologies wrapped up in what Bridget Phillipson even now was describing as protected characteristics that need protection, therefore, and promotion. And she, in spite of saying the Supreme Court had clarified what a woman is, Bridget Phillipson went on to say that they would still stand for trans rights. I don't know if you picked that up in the clip that you showed. She was still saying, we know now, effectively, because there's the Supreme Court ruling, they couldn't figure it out themselves before that there's no such thing as a trans man, but we're still going to fight for trans rights.
It's just, I mean...
They're mad.
Badenox just said, I know what a woman is and always have. You don't seem to. It's quite interesting. Did you hear over the weekend that apparently there is already a WhatsApp group, that'll leak, obviously. There's a WhatsApp group of Labour MPs, including, they believe, some front benchers, I don't know if it's Bridget Phillipson, who are already working out how they can go against the Supreme Court ruling, which is a bit rich when you consider their boss, their leader, spends his entire life telling anybody and everybody you should adhere to every law from every court from here to kingdom come, doesn't he?
Absolutely right. But I have to keep going back to the fact that it's ridiculous we needed a Supreme Court ruling to define a woman.
I know.
I mean, I knew intuitively what a woman was from the age of 13, and I wasn't disabused of that until this whole ideology came along. And frankly, when I was first confronted with the ideology, I thought it was a joke. When I was first interviewed about it, I thought, this is just a joke. Gender dysphoria is a mental health issue. Not being comfortable in your own body is something about which we should feel sympathetic and compassionate. But just because you feel that way doesn't mean that your mental health issue should be naturalized and you should now be able in society to be recognized as women. They're two completely different things. And it is a mental health issue. You know, it's the same government that goes on about mental health issue needing sensitive treatment. But you don't give people sensitive treatment by buying into a lie. We've got to tell the truth.
I just want to ask you quickly, we're going to go to a break and come back with some more if we can, but we had a really interesting interview earlier with Sarah Dittam, who wrote a piece for The Times today. Unhinged trans activists have shown their true colours. Ben, I don't have a problem with trans people at all. I have a problem as the father of a teenage daughter. I've said it already. I want her to not have men walk into a changing room. That's not anti-women at all. That I'm talking about trans men in that instance. Have a separate toilet, have separate sporting sections, that's fine. This is yet another movement, I hate the word movement, that has been hijacked by a mob. I don't think it does trans people any good at all. Why are obeying mobs seemingly able to cause... Well, let me give you an example. They walk through London with a sign saying, "Kill J.K. Rowling," OK? Nobody arrests them. The police announced 24 hours later, "We'll be looking into this." I'm not sticking up for those far-right thugs. They were quite rightly scraped off the roads and put in prison within 24 hours. That is threatening somebody's life. Why in the name of God? Another example of fear from the police, fear from society, yes?
Absolutely. Well, you heard Bridget Phillipson. I'll just go back to it briefly. She said that these people have protected characteristics. Well, if you put a protective blanket, effectively immunity, around people who have a particular ideology, then when they say obscene things like J.K. Rowling should die, you won't do anything about it because they've literally got protected characteristics, protected status in society. That's how far wrong we've gone. And this is all part of diversity, equity and inclusion. And it has its roots in the Equalities Act and, frankly, the Human Rights Act and the European Convention of Human Rights, where rights are afforded to people across the board, where minority rights, effectively, in order to preserve them, the argument is made that they need to be elevated over and above, and if necessary, to the detriment of the majority. And that's why Keir Starmer had no problems in directing the entire criminal justice system against people that he apparently knew better than anyone else were clearly far right, because they came out protesting against illegal migration. And he felt completely able to direct the criminal justice system against them because they don't have any protected characteristics. They represent the majority of the people in this country. They're not protected. It's only the minorities, those with minority ethnic backgrounds, those with minority sexual preferences, religious beliefs, and transgender ideology, which frankly is a minority within a minority within a minority. There are so few people in this country who actually suffer from gender dysphoria that it shouldn't even touch the sides of debate in Parliament. We should all be compassionate. We should all be loving and caring about our fellow people. But that doesn't mean we suspend common sense and rationality and put a protective blanket around ideologies which are using that as a platform effectively for hate in the way that you just described, in the way that they were advocating for the death of J.K. Rowling.
Couldn't agree more. Don't go anywhere. Back in 3 on Talk Drive. More from Ben Habib next.
On this issue, he's normally very happy to comment on things when it suits him, but he's gone silent on this one because I think he realises that the positions he's taken on this issue in the past are completely wrong.
Yeah.
Now, I am also concerned, Mike, that some of Keir Starmer's ministers, particularly Angela Eagle and Chris Bryant, quite senior ministers, have been apparently conspiring via some secret WhatsApp group to try and circumvent or undermine the Supreme Court judgment. So I think Keir Starmer should come out today and say that that is unacceptable and they should stop doing that immediately.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5 to 6, back with Ben Habib. Ben, 5 minutes to the news. We've talked about Keir Starmer changing his mind about what a woman is. We've talked about pro-trans protests and how seemingly you can call for the death of J.K. Rowling and the police won't do anything. Even more examples of how this incompetent government continue to amaze us on a daily basis in a bad way. Today, the IMF has steadfastly said that our own Chancellor is that, well, she's under pressure to raise taxes or cut spending. They've said there's no room for manoeuvre. The 10 months you've been in charge, you've messed the economy up. That's how appallingly bad a job Rachel Thieves has done in less than a year, Ben Habib.
And it has been absolutely appalling. And, you know, when the budget came out, actually, I said that I forecast that this would happen, that we'd be in dire financial straits. It was obvious, because you can't get blood out of a stone.
Nope.
We've already got taxation at a post-World War II high. That was already the case with the Conservative Party. And she's taken it to new levels. And she's coupled that with ever more restrictive regulations and ever more greater spending. The budget, we forget, actually included £70 billion of spending, less than half, around half of which came from tax increases. The rest of it was coming from borrowing. She was balanced on a knife edge. And of course, the extra taxation came straight out of working class pockets, employment and employers. And that's hit the employment market tremendously. And without people being employed, without growth in the economy, you can't sustain the high taxes that she needs in her forecasts in order to make the equation balance. So we were always going to head into trouble. And no doubt the global economy has, been wobbled a little bit by what Trump is doing. Not the US economy, by the way. I think they'll be fine. But the global economy has. And she's now between a rock and a hard place. The only thing she can do, and she needs to do it urgently, is to cut regulations, because that is a brake on business.
Yep.
That also has huge cost to business. Doesn't cost the exchequer anything. Deregulate, and top of the list, she should have ditching net zero if she's got any sense. And she should actually cut spending. The government has to cut back what we're spending on welfare, what we're spending on benefits, what we're handing out to the 3 million people.
Can't do it, though, because that will upset the people that got them there. And this is the reality. We've only got a couple of minutes. I said it before and I'll say it again. Labour Party sweeps to power. It happened in the 70s, promising all things to all people. In the old days, if there wasn't enough money they printed, inflation would go through the roof, everybody would end up with less money in their pocket, borrow, bankrupt the country. The unions take control, they go on strike. It's happening in Birmingham. This is an absolute mirror image of what happened in the last Labour government. Is she out of her depth, Ben Habib? I think she's well out of her depth.
Completely out of her depth. And people say to me, notwithstanding how awful this government is, there won't be an election before 2029. Well, actually, if we end up having to go to the IMF that has now condemned her economic management, cap in hand, asking them to rescue us, you know, the biggest funders of the IMF are the US. They are the backers of the IMF.
Maybe we'll become the 51st state, the mess we're in, eh? What do you reckon?
Well, certainly. If I were Trump and the UK was asking for a bailout, one of the conditions would be a general election. Why should we bail you out? You guys got yourself into this mess. Get yourself some decent leadership. It is possible we might have a general election before 2029.
Really interesting. Ben, sorry to keep you over the break, mate, but always great to have you on. Really, really appreciate it. Ben Habib, former MEP, Brexiteer and chairman of Great British PAC. It's almost 6 o'clock. We're live across the UK. So much to cram into the next hour. Your calls, 0344 499 1000. What do you want to talk about? The fact that Starmer's worked out a woman is a biological woman and can't have a penis? The fact that Rachel Reeves has been told by the AMF that actually she's economically incompetent and we're skinned, even more skinned than when they came to power? Or is it OK for pro-trans protesters to walk around with banners saying, let's kill J.K. Rowling? By all means protest, by all means have an opinion, but I would suspect the police should probably be arresting those people. Call me boring and old-fashioned. We got the news at 6. Don't forget the WhatsApp messages to Ryan, the voice notes, 0344 499 1000 on WhatsApp, and keep those texts going. What is a man? 87222. The news at 6 is next on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. There's a very strange thing happening here at Studio One at Talk. There's a plethora, that's a large number of people gathering outside. I feel like it could be for my wake. I feel like it could be at 7 o'clock when I'm taken from this studio. They go, thank you very much indeed for ruining Talk. No, I'm joking. I don't know what they're here for. Maybe it is a farewell. Anyway, I was told a joke by Faith, who's answering the phones, during Jodie's absence this week. Jodie producing another show. Faith has told a joke that I would love to tell on air, but even I'm slightly reticent. So it's about the male appendage. That's all I'm going to say. Do you want me to tell it? 87222. Start your. It's about a penis. I mean, Ryan said it's not my career. I mean, that's how scared he is, sitting on the fence. 0344 499 1000. We, on the day that Keir Starmer worked out that a woman is a biological woman and cannot have a penis, have set a damn amazingly brilliant question, thought of by Ryan. What is a man? Jill's in Cornwall. Hello, Jill. What is a man?
Well, there you go. A man, as far as I'm concerned, is someone who, yes, has a penis as well as testosterone. I mean, there's lots of things, but yes, I
puts the bins out.
is stronger than I am. Can lift things I can't. Oh. I mean, I'm just so sick of this. I mean, women have fallopian tubes. They have vaginas. They have eggs that produce babies. Oh. If they go with a man who has a penis, and what's happening is, because it's so difficult to say what you need to say sometimes, because someone somewhere will accuse you of being...
Not on this station, they won't. No. Jill, do you think I should do Faith's joke? It's about a penis. Do you think I should, or do you think I risk my career?
Well, I think you should do it. But it's not my career, Jeremy. So
well, I've had that said to me before. So that's one person for the joke, the penis joke, and that's Jill in Cornwall. Well, thank you, my darling. Good to have you on. Let's go to Southampton. Lynn, you're on Talk Drive. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine.
Hello. Do you think I should do Faith's penis joke or not? Yes or no?
No.
You don't? She's a no. She's a no. If that's one yes and one no.
No, because, yeah.
Well, you think I'll be cancelled again? Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Right, what's happening, Lynn? What's the bloke?
Well... To be honest, I've not gone down this road for years, but honestly, you go on things like YouTube and Facebook and everything else, and it's just smothered with this propaganda of what is a man. And it's not a man. They keep putting all this, the woman in your face, so to speak.
You think the trans debate's gone too far?
Yes, absolutely. It's gone way too far.
What?
I mean, we've got...
Can a woman have a penis, yes or no?
No, absolutely no. And then...
Can a man have a penis?
Well, of course he can.
All right, don't start giggling in that dirty way. All right. You don't think I should do the joke, though?
No.
All right, then, Lynn, Southampton, thank you very much indeed. GB says a man is someone who can put on a wig, high heels and suspenders and call himself a bird. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Do I do the penis joke between now and 7 o'clock? I'll tell you what I do want to do is bring on my favourite guest of the week. I make no apology for this. He's the chief political writer of Spiked. We love having him on the show. Brendan O'Neill, a very good evening to you, sir. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm good, thank you.
What a momentous day on the day that Keir Starmer has done a full... is it a 180 or a 360? Anyway, in March 2022, Brendan, when he was leader of the opposition, Sir Dreary told The Times that a woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women. And this is not just my view, that's the actual law. Last week, when the Supreme UK Court ruled that a woman is defined by biological sex, he's kept steadfastly quiet until this morning. Asked if Sir Keir believed that a transgender woman was a woman, his official spokesman said no. The Supreme Court has made it clear that when looking at the Equality Act, a woman is a biological woman. Hurrah, say we. I've got this for you. Ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of ITV Politics. It's been a while since I said live on ITV. This is Keir Starmer. I'm going to say responding to the Supreme Court ruling earlier today. I think most of you might say squirming. Have a watch.
Look, I think the Supreme Court has answered that question.
So you don't believe a trans woman is a woman?
Look, a woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. So I think it's important that we see the judgment for what it is. It's a welcome step forward. It's real clarity in an area where we did need clarity. I'm pleased it's come about. We need to move and make sure that we now ensure that all guidance is in the right place according to that judgment.
Brendan, why does he look about as convincing as me when I've got a stomach upset?
You know, talk about slippery Starmer. He thinks he can just wipe away all the nonsense he's been talking over the past few years. You know, this is the question. Why do we have a Prime Minister who needed the Supreme Court to tell him what a woman is?
Yep.
Why are we led by a man who needed 5 judges to explain to him what every toddler over the age of 5 knows? That there are men and there are women, and men have a penis and women have something else. That's
Oh,
what
well,
kids...
earlier on, just to make you laugh, don't worry about saying it, we had a man on saying, a man's got a penis and a woman's got a cervix. And I went, it's not a citron, mate, it's a cervix, so you're all right. There we go.
Exactly right. Exactly. This kids will tell you this.
Yes.
Kids who go to, who know the basics of life will be able to tell you this. But Keir Starmer couldn't tell us this until this morning when he had his eyes opened by the Supreme Court. This is a disgrace. We cannot forget the fact that he once said that 1 in 1,000 women have a penis, which would mean there are tens of thousands of women in Britain walking around with a penis under their skirts. This is a man who said it's wrong to say that only women have a cervix because Rosie Duffield, the long-suffering Labour MP...
Who deserves a shout-out every time we raise her name, because what a brave lady Rosie Duffield is. Brave.
Absolutely. She stood up against all this nonsense, and she didn't need the Supreme Court to tell her the basics of biology. So Keir Starmer, he has revealed that he is a slippery character, that he thinks he can just change his views without having any reckoning with what he's been saying in the past, and who seems to need a court of law to tell him the basics of life. This is ridiculous.
Bearing in mind that... I wanted your take because I feel really strongly about this. I read a really interesting interview earlier with Sarah Dittam, who wrote a piece in the Times today saying the unhinged trans activists have shown their true colours. However, I just want to read this to people because it's very easy to just jump on this. She said there are two ways of looking at the Supreme Court's judgment in the 4 Women Scotland case. The first is actually to read it. If you do that, you'll find a thorough and considered ruling that balances the rights of women and the rights of trans people under the Equality Act, whilst reaffirming throughout that both sex and gender reassignment are protected characteristics in law. The second, she says, is to look at the reaction from trans activists and their allies, which is almost entirely unhinged from anything in the judgment itself. On social media, posters paraphrased Martin, I don't understand, as though it's like a new Holocaust. The Good Law Project accused the Supreme Court of ignoring trans voices whilst acknowledging that no trans activist organisation had applied to intervene. I watched those protests at the weekend, and I believe, as you do, in free speech and the right to protest. But can you please explain to me, if you were looking in at this country, on the one hand, as you say, 5 years and millions of pounds and 5 judges to tell our Prime Minister that a woman can't have a penis. And apparently it's all right if you are a loud, aggressive activist to walk around with a banner, right, saying, and I quote, J.K. Rowling deserves to die, and the police do absolutely nothing. That is beyond my comprehension.
You know, Jeremy, there is currently, as you know, there's currently a woman in prison in this country serving a 31-month sentence for saying burn down the hotels during the Southport riots last year. And yet we have men on the streets of this country holding up a placard, as you just described there, saying bring back witch burning J.K. Rowling. That is a threat to strap...
It's misogyny. It's misogyny. And where are the women activists? Where are the women's rights campaigners who would go mad about that? They don't say jack either because everybody's scared. It's frightening.
It's complete misogyny, and that was a threat to strap, or at least it was a dream of strapping J.K. Rowling to a stake and burning her alive for the sin of believing in biology. So this is two-tier Britain summed up. If you're a woman on the internet and you make a stupid comment during the riots, you get banged up for 31 months. If you're a bloke on the streets and you hold up such a sick placard as that, apparently nothing's happened so far anyway. You know, the thing is, these protests were orgies of misogyny. They were absolutely disgusting. This was men in frocks, if we're being honest, who were threatening to urinate and defecate on women. That's what they were saying. They were also saying that women should be hanged by the neck or burnt at the stake for disagreeing with trans activists. These were violent threats. This protest was a howl of male rage, a howl of male entitlement dressed up as a civil rights movement. And the fact that so many people in positions of influence and power are quiet about that is really gross.
It is gross, and it's not going to go anywhere. We had a bit of fun. I'm going to finish that segment with a bit of fun. How do you define a man, or have we done that already? What is a man in your mind?
A man is someone who was born a boy, went through male puberty, and has male chromosomes. Very straightforward.
And does exactly what his wife tells him. That's what I've learned. So we've got that. We've got Starmer and that sort of slippery front bench. We were talking about this earlier. We've got Starmer, who seems to just sort of I don't know, react depending on focus groups or how the wind is blowing. We've got the madness of Millipede, who seems intent on further bankrupting what this country hasn't actually got. We've got Lammy, who seems to be eating his way through the Foreign Office whilst announcing that the green agenda's more important than the Ukraine-Russian war, because he's a total end. And now we've got Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves, who today, the Chancellor of the United Kingdom, a woman who came to power and said, and I quote, it's about growth, it's about making things work, and everybody saw the budget and thought, hold on, if you're going to talk about growth, you're just destroying small and medium businesses with your NI cuts, the workers' rights, all that. You're taxing anybody that's successful and hounding them out of this country. Today, told by the IMF, you've got no room for manoeuvre, love. Either you raise taxes or take a machete to public services, because let's be honest, after 10 months you are completely and utterly incompetent. How frightening is this government?
It's terrifying, and they don't understand the first thing about economic growth. They think it's just a slogan. It's like smash the gangs. They just say it without meaning anything whatsoever. It has no meaning when they say economic growth, because this is a party that is constitutionally addicted to quangos and to public spending and to splashing our money up the wall on useless projects and useless layers of public scrutiny that we just don't need. Red tape, green tape, the rest of it. They say they're going to cut all that, but they don't. They've actually created quangos, not cut them. They say they want to grow, but actually they're enthralled to the religion of net zero, which is implacably anti-growth. So they use growth as a slogan because they like the sound of it, and they know that we like the sound of it as well, but they have no intention and no capacity of actually growing the economy.
It's to me, it's frightening. And then just, oh God, and it's just on a day of like, let's just talk about how incompetent this whole bloody government is. We've got a prime minister who can't work out that a woman hasn't got a penis. We've got a chancellor who lied about, you know, what her ability to do a job which she's bankrupted us still further. And then we've got Mrs. Balls at the Home Office, old Yvette Cooper. I mean, this is frightening to me. Came to power going, we're going to smash the gangs. And to be honest, most people, including myself, I wasn't that taken with the Rwanda idea. I've always believed that the greatest deterrent in this country would be to stop making it so attractive to come here whilst leaving your wife and children to be bombed, by the way, in the war-ravaged place that you've escaped to come to the United Kingdom. Oh, and when you get to the first safe country, don't stop there. Wait till you come here. Oh, because we'll put you in a hotel and give you a phone and look after you, because we're nice like that. Not to our own people, mind. Today, having not smashed the gangs, having seen figures gone through the roof in terms of who's coming, her idea is that the nationalities of migrants with the highest rates of crime, she's about to reveal this week in an official league table. Not how we're going to stop the numbers on that official league table coming. We're going to promote a league table that says, what, about 30% of them come from here and 25%. Just stop them coming, love. It's beyond me.
You know what? You're so right, Jeremy, because when they say smash the gangs, or when they say we're going to tell you the nationality of the various crimes that have been committed, you know, these might sound like good things to know. It would be useful for us to know what kind of crimes are being committed by people who are here illegally. But you're absolutely right. It's all about avoiding the larger question, which is how are these people getting here? What serious deterrents are being enforced to stop them from coming here? But it really boils down to one basic fact. We have a ruling class that doesn't believe in borders. They do not believe that borders are worth having or worth protecting. This is a post-borders, post-nationhood, EU-loving political class. And that's the real problem. If you wanted to sort the border crisis, you could sort the border crisis. It is not rocket science.
I could do it in 5 minutes.
You make it less attractive for people to get here, so you change the rules around welfare.
I don't understand, and I never have, Brendan. Didn't mean to jump in, but I've never understood, and I touched upon it just then. If I am in a war-torn and war-ravaged area and my wife and children are being bombed, if I could escape, I'd be really happy to, but I'd bring them with me. I wouldn't leave them and come here on my own. Also, the first country I got to, where I wasn't having a bomb rain down on my head, I would go, oh, this is nice. No, people come to United Kingdom because, and I think it's that old sort of UK thing, Britain thing, you know, we've always put people first, we've always behaved admirably and all that. My point is this, and I can bring it back to how we started with Starmer going full 360, whatever is 180 today. The British people, yes, are very generous, kind, morally based and all that. but they are stretched. They've been stretched by COVID. They've been stretched by a cost of living crisis. They are not all far-right, racist bigots. They are basically going, I've lived my life quite correctly. I've done what I thought was right, and I'm sorry if it sounds bad, but you know what? I can't give anything to that charity right now because I'm struggling actually, right, to do things for myself and my family. And I think there is going to be a massive groundswell of opinion which will say, listen, whichever government's in power, common sense tells you that we are the electorate, and common sense should also tell you that we're getting to a point where you need to listen. And that's not being outrageous or calling for anything. It's just, I don't understand why politicians don't seem to gather how strong this feeling is in this country, Brendan. I really don't.
Absolutely. You know, the thing is, Jeremy, they've been lying to us about immigration for the past 20 years. They've lied by saying it's impossible to control it. They've lied by saying, well, we just can't close the borders. We can't do it. They've lied by saying that these people are refugees or asylum seekers, when we know that the vast majority of them are economic migrants who are coming here because they'll think they'll get a cushy number. As you say, most of them are young men. Certainly the recent illegal arrivals are young men. We know this to be true, and yet they lie to our faces. And you know, one of the problems here is that this does actually chip away at the British spirit of caring, because there will be times in the future when we will have to take in some refugees who are really...
We did it with Ukraine, and we did it gladly. We welcomed, because these people were being bombed by Russia, okay?
Absolutely.
I am not... People always say to me, but you don't know what it's like. No, I don't. But for those people who tell me that I don't know what it's like to live in Pakistan or Sudan, I completely and utterly absolutely appreciate that point. What they don't appreciate, which is what happens nowadays, because there's one view and that's the only view, is if you are Beryl living in Bury and you're 70 and you're waiting for a hip-hop and you've paid your stamp all your life, you look at this and you go, that ain't bloody fair. And there isn't anybody that disagrees with Beryl in Bury. And the people that pretend to know, they don't listen to Beryl, see? Well, I do. That's just the way I am.
Exactly. You know, it's even worse than that, Jeremy. They don't only not listen to people like Beryl, they hate people like Beryl. Let's just speak frankly. Do you remember when Gordon Brown referred to that awful woman? Yeah. And because she dared to ask him a question about mass immigration. That's going back years and years. And their intense hatred of ordinary people who dare to ask questions about immigration, that hatred has grown and grown. So it's not only that they don't understand us, it's not only that they don't listen to us, it's that they don't like us.
I think it's really interesting as well. I used to think, I mean, I'm sitting here and we're under a Labour government, but I would say that we went through a stage, didn't we, where people didn't really have that much respect for politicians. There was that time about the expenses, and then there was COVID. I think that there is a very, very strong feeling in this country that all politicians have treated us or are treating us with almost casual disdain. And I think that if you make that judgment, oh, they don't matter. I mean, people always go, the Labour Party is the party of the people. Is it whatever? No, it's not. Working class people want just normal, everyday things. And I think, I genuinely believe that one of the reasons we're seeing the movement in the way the political landscape's growing in this country is because that unipolitics, I think people are just fed up, mate. I really genuinely think they are.
You know, they look at us with utter contempt. Yeah. They think of us as gammon. We're the gammon. And you know what gammon means? Gammon means pig meat. That is how this section of the political establishment looks at us. They think if we stand up for women's rights, we're transphobic. If we criticize any aspect of radical Islam, we're Islamophobic. If we worry about mass immigration and we say, let's control the borders a bit better, we're xenophobic. Yeah. They see all of our moral convictions and political beliefs as expressions of hatred. That's how they conceive of ordinary people. So when people call into your show and express their frustration, they've got somewhere where they're actually listened to, because in the public realm, increasingly, people are not only not listened to, but they're looked down upon with utter contempt.
I don't know about you, mate. I've got to move on from you. I hate that, but I will say this. I don't think that's an extreme view anymore, and I think that is a view and an opportunity for more and more people to say, look, by the way, It's like the Lucy Connolly thing. I don't condone in any way what Lucy Connolly wrote. I thought it was abhorrent and wrong, but you could have dealt with her by sending her to spend time with the community she was so abhorrent in her words about. No, we'll put her in jail for 31 years. But as you said, if I'm a trans activist, I can walk around London at the weekend with a banner going, kill J.K. Rowling, she's a witch, let's burn her to death. Disgusting. Brendan, you are always, my friend, welcome on the show. We thank you so much indeed. Chief political writer, of course, for Spiked. Check him out. Good man. Brendan O'Neill, 6:24. Alex Phillips in for Kev O'Sullivan. He's on holiday all this week with his dog and his wife. Goodness me. 0344 499 1000. We're here until 7.
free speech is a huge issue for the Trump administration. We've seen Ofcom, which is Office for Communications, a big government quango, £1 billion quango, in fact, in the UK, block a few social media websites from the US in the UK, and that has reached the desks of the White House, and they are not happy about that at all. So the government needs to restate free speech in the UK to get that trade deal.
Yeah, well, a country that lives and breathes free speech, to have one of its closest allies in this place is a kind of curious position for Trump and Vance and others to be in.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
I'm in a quandary. Faith, who's taken over from Jodie, is producing another show. I'm joking. Faith told me a joke about the penis, which I think is quite funny. Ryan's a little bit reticent. I'm doing a poll. So far, we're split between yeses and no. Treacle says, yeah, tell the penis joke. Let's have a laugh. Kenny in Edinburgh, please, please, please tell the Faith's joke. I thought this was a free speech, common sense station. Yeah. OK, two more. Jez, what is a man? Answer any and every adult not born a biological woman, says Brian. Brilliant. Jez says Don in Chelmsford. Starmer gives a bad name to eels. Slippery Starmer. Nice. Josh says a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Do you remember the advert? Tougho. A man's got to do what a man's got to do. Tougher. They're all looking at me like I've landed from Mars again. John Barden. To be... Oh, no, I'm joking. A man is someone who is a good father, a good son, a good brother and loyal to his friends. A man is someone who would starve to feed his family, defend his loved ones to the point of death, cry at the death of loved ones and laugh in the face of adversity. Oh, and yes, having a willy also helps. I think that's such a funny word, Willie. Stuart, Keir Starmer, our leader, from penises to Keir Starmer. You see what we do on this show? Keir Starmer, our leader, needs judges to tell him how to think. This is not a leader. A leader tells judges how to think by changing laws. Go, Brendan, says Leslie McClellan. You're awesome. Thank you. Chris is in Newbury. 100 years ago, suffragettes fought bravely for women's rights. Over the weekend, a bunch of insufferable jerks campaigned for the murder of J.K. Rowling. It's time we said it for what it is. Being a man and wanting to use a female toilet is an illness and does not make you a brave hero. Very interesting. That's from Chris in Newbury. Rob in West Midlands. Oh, cheers. What is a man? A man is someone who wears Speedo trunks and budgie smugglers. Simples. Keep it up, aye? Ryan, have you ever worn budgie smugglers? I imagine you... No? OK. Gary Wright says, Brendan bang on the money. Oh, and Stuart. You are spot on about politicians and they have completely forgotten that we elected them to serve us and not the other way around. I fear a revolution. But he wrote this as a revelation is coming. He said, I fear a revelation is coming. We'll wait for it, Stewie. 6:30. 0344 499 1000 to the phone lines. Bognor Regis. Nice. Audrey, hello.
Hello.
Hello. You all right?
Hello. Yeah, I'm fine. You?
Can a woman have a penis?
No.
Do you want me to do the penis joke?
Oh, God, yeah.
You
we
do.
all need a laugh.
Ryan, are we doing it? Audrey, I'm going to do the penis joke for you. This is from Faith. Any complaints, write to Faith, care of Talk Radio. What's the bit of skin attached to the end of the penis called?
A man.
The useless bit of skin. A man. That's from Faith, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's a great joke, don't you? What's the useless piece of skin attached to the end of the bit? It's called a man. Do you like that, Audrey?
I do.
Well, laugh then, love. Come on.
And it certainly applies to who's leading us.
All right. Yes, that's true. Yes. What do you make of today? What do you want to say?
Well, he's a lawyer. His mother gave birth to him.
Yes.
His wife gave birth to his children. And yet he had to have a judge to clarify what a woman was. The man is incompetent, pathetic, and, well, he is a tool.
I love you all. Audrey and Bognor Regis. Do you find the word Willie funny, by the way?
Yes.
I love you, Aud. Thanks for coming on. Let's go to Essex. Always brave. Bex, you're on Talk Drive. Hello.
Hi, Jeremy. How are
come
you?
on! No! Listen, we're trying to enthuse people here. Let's just do that again. Try and give me the opening. Let's imagine like you're excited. Let's go to Essex. Hi, Bex.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Is that the best we're doing? It doesn't sound very inspiring.
I'm trying.
Well, you've been watching Keir Starmer for 12 hours. Love, you sound half asleep. What's happening?
I don't want to hear his voice again.
Oh, come on! He's our leader. He's our leader. He's our Prime Minister.
No, he's not. He's not. I'd rather have Donald Duck lead the country than him.
Donald Duck.
Yeah.
It took him 5 years to admit that a woman can't have a penis. Your thoughts on this subject?
I don't know how he goes home and faces his wife. You see, if I was Keir Starmer's wife and my husband come home after saying that a woman can have a penis, I would make sure in the bedroom he would know what it's like for me to have a penis, if you can work out what I mean there.
Well, we're really... Can I just say I love you because there's a lot of people, and I'm going to be really honest with you. There's a lot of people on this station who go, Jeremy, this is we should be talking. Why have I gone into Churchill again? We've also. It is also in the midst of the misery that is this country, in the midst of the misery that is this government. It's actually quite funny. So to repeat, if you were Mrs. Starmer. And your husband had been in public saying, I think a woman can have a willy. When you repeat what you said, when he came home, what?
When he come home, there would be something very large, very long, waiting for him in the bedroom, placed onto me, so he could...
All right, no, too much information now, madam. Good Lord, Bex. Whereabouts in Essex?
I'm in Brentwood in Essex. And another thing I wanted to say about all the people on the streets, women, my gender is not their costume. Our ancestors have fought for years for women's rights against men, by the establishment.
Yep.
And only for them to come along and try and take our gender, the one thing that we've got. Are they having a laugh?
Do you know what? I actually couldn't agree with you more. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for making me laugh, because not many people do. I laugh when I take my clothes off. That's another subject. Thank you, Bex, in Essex. Ches, Does this now confirm Starmer's father was a toolmaker? Neil in Labour-obliterated Wales? Possibly. Jeremy, I love you laughing at the word Willie. Let's be honest, it's hard not to. It's getting worse, this. Heather, it would have been cheaper to give Starmer a biology book instead of a 5-year court case. It would have been a lot cheaper too. I couldn't agree more. We're almost approaching 25 to 7. Just to repeat the big news of the day, Alex Phillips, who is... brilliant. It said that. I'm just reading this. No, it is brilliant. She's here from 7 o'clock tonight in for Kev. He's away all week with his dog and his wife. So if you want to be part of the Alex Phillips experience, do you see what I've done there? 0344 499. But you can get your call on with us. We've got loads coming up. And Sir John Redwood, a former Conservative MP, another one I've turned into possibly one of the greatest social commentators ever. He's looking for a gig. He wants to do Panto this Christmas. Oh, yes, he does. Back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Mike is back at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning on a day that's quite important, actually. I was talking to him just now. It is, of course, St George's Day. My father-in-law, Robin, who listens to this show, I'm not going to tell you where he lives, but the local council have made it pretty obvious in the past that if you fly a St George's flag, that could be perceived as a hate crime by other religions, and that actually... so he's going to plant one tomorrow morning and see what the hell happens. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, a man free from the shackles of public office. We love him on the show. Sir John Redwood, good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Jeremy. Well, you're in fine voice again. Plenty of jokes on your show. Still haven't got that Panto contract. Then.
Oh, listen, we're on that. I've got you. I
in
think...
the post, I suppose.
No, no, it doesn't work. The post. They've gone on strike. I see you as an ugly sister. What do you think?
No, I think that's a bit dodgy for me. No, I think I'd rather be one of the young heroes.
Well, I was thinking you could, in fact, dress... No, we're not going there. Let's talk about our Prime Minister. And I'm not being rude, because the word penis will be involved in this, Sir John Redwood. It has taken... If I was looking at our country from abroad, I would be saying the following. It has taken 5 years and millions of pounds for our Prime Minister, who in March 2022 said that a woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women, and that is the law, to today say a woman is a biological woman. Is the man devoid of any common sense, for God's sake?
Well, it sounds like it, and it sounds as if he wasn't that good a lawyer either, because he always wants us to obey all kinds of international laws that don't suit the United Kingdom. And he obviously thought he understood UK law on this pretty easy subject of what is a woman. And it's now taken, 10 months in office, and as you say, a lot of money and a Supreme Court judgment to tell him. And he's still got members of his government who don't agree with it. And he's got to show a bit of leadership here and say, look, the Supreme Court has come out with a common sense view. It's the view of most people in the country. It doesn't mean we're going to be nasty to trans people. No. They've got their rights.
Yes.
But so have women got their rights. And it's very important that women-only spaces are preserved and used in the proper way, and very important that it's only biological women that compete in women's sports, because there is that physical difference.
And I think, I keep repeating it, but a great interview with Sarah Ditton this morning, who wrote a great piece in the Times, and you have absolutely nailed it, because she said there are two ways of looking at the Supreme Court's judgment. The first is to actually read it, and if you do, you'll find a thorough and considered ruling that balances the rights of women and the rights of trans people under the Equality Act, whilst reaffirming throughout that both sex and gender reassignment are protected characteristics in law. But you touched upon it. You've got this Prime Minister who patently, I said it during the election, to get that majority, he made the tent so wide. I mean, he had the Conservative MP from Dover, when he had the one thrown out for fraud, the left wing. He had everybody, OK? Yeah. Now you have a Prime Minister, you just said it, he needs to grow a pair and say, you know, because there were rumours at the weekend that there's a WhatsApp group, Sir John, going around already, and there are Labour front bench cabinet ministers who are already trying to work out how they can row back against the Supreme Court, the highest law court in the land, for God's sakes. Beyond me. Beyond me.
Well, I mean, it just is beyond us all, because these were the people in opposition who regarded every court judgment and every interpretation of the law they made as sacrosanct, and pilloried government ministers who had tried to apply a bit of common sense or politics to the situation. And now they're in office. Apparently it's only the laws that they like that apply to them. And it's only interpretations of the law that they like that apply to them. And they're discovering the lawyers don't always agree with them. Well, you shouldn't have given lawyers so much power with all your encouragement to previous governments and all your belief in international treaties and international laws. And they're still giving our powers away. I hear they're plotting to give a load more of our powers back to the EU under some very dodgy deal we don't
Nick
want.
Timmons, whatever his name is, he's over him.
And our money away, it's Mauritius. It's just crazy.
I couldn't
put Britain first, Sir Keir. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's a great phrase. Put Britain first. But I don't think he's proud to be British. I think that he and his dodgy cabinet are at best anti the United Kingdom. Can I ask you, just continuing that trans debate, I'm interested to get an opinion, and I think that Sarah Ditton point is true. They are protected characteristics. It's not, you know, whilst reaffirming throughout that both sex and gender reassignment are protected characteristics in law. I'm 60 years of age in July. I was brought up to believe that the law is the law, no matter your religion, your group, your sex, your gender, your colour of your skin. It seems to me, when I see what happened at the weekend, that our policing is getting worse by the day, Sir John. Nobody condoning what happened after those Southport riots, and actually one of the firmest things that Sir Keir Starmer has done. He rounded those people up, had them tried on television and thrown in jail within 24 hours. Can you explain to me then, as an ex-cabinet minister and one of the leading politicians of the last 30 years, how it is that trans rights activists can walk through the capital of this country with a banner saying J.K. Rowling burned the witch at a stake, calling for her death, and the police go, we're looking into it? That is unbelievably bad, in my humble opinion. Dreadful, dreadful.
Well, indeed, and that's why we hear so much about two-tier Keir, because the whole Labour government, who clearly do influence the legal system and the police in this country, and they've got every right to, with majority in the Commons, seem to be influencing it in the wrong direction. They seem to be saying to the police that there are certain types of protesters and certain types of statements which we regard as unacceptable, and you police those. But statements that offend the other half of the country, well, you don't need to bother about that. And the police, I'm sure, are being guided by the government. The Home Secretary should be leading this, and she should be the one making the big speech about how we must have neutral justice, fair justice, with similar standards applied, whatever your political views.
But we don't get it. As I continue my view of this cabinet, the Prime Minister, Everybody knows what I think about Lammy, who seems to be eating his way through the Foreign Secretary's job, whilst also acknowledging... Well, all he does is seem to eat and say things like the green agenda is more important than the war in Ukraine. I mean, he's a complete... I can't use the word, you're a knight of the realm.
Well, I don't mind him eating for Britain, but I wish it was for Britain, and I wish when he was round the table with all these important people, he was offering a free trade deal to the United States of America that would work for both us and America, that he was telling the EU that, no, we're not about to accept all their laws and accept all their requirements as if we were in the single market and just pretend to the British people they haven't done anything. That's not the kind of foreign secretary we want. We want a foreign secretary who represents our legitimate interests to the foreign countries and doesn't think his main role is to give all the foreign countries everything they ask for at the expense of our country.
Well, we go from him to Rachel Thieves or Richard III, if you take a look. I cannot believe that today... Well, I can believe the International Monetary Fund has downgraded the UK growth and said high debt, rising interest costs and stubborn inflation are leaving public finances dangerously stacked. And in a damning assessment, they've said to our Chancellor of 10 months, 40 weeks, 280 days. Listen, love, you've no room for wiggle here. Either raise taxes, right, or destroy still further public spending on public services. The woman... I mean, just look at... I mean, how incompetent's that? That's the IMF saying that she's not up to scratch.
Yeah, it is indeed. And some of us have been saying this both pre her budget, when we were getting all the more price inflation. We've had both. And now the IMF, they always have a bit of a lag, have got round to reviewing it. And they say, yes, you're right, you guys who criticise the government and the Chancellor. Growth down, inflation up. And it was very interesting because some journalists, some of whom I think were friendly towards our government, were at the press conference that the IMF held to launch all this. And they specifically said, is this extra inflation made in Britain or is it the result of Trump and tariffs? And they were hoping for the Trump excuse. And the IMF had to say, no, this is basically done in Britain. It's the energy bills, it's the water bills, it's the higher interest rates and all the rest of it. So I'm afraid an independent body who is probably sympathetic to the general aims of the government had to come out and say, no, this is a real mess.
I said to, why have I forgotten his name? Nigel Evans, sorry. I said to Nigel a couple of hours ago, John, and I'll say the same to you. You're no longer there, which is a loss. Everybody respected you enormously. It must be even more galling to Tories who felt that the ship sailed in the wrong direction, to know that the way the British public felt after 14 years of Tory rule allowed this shambles, because this is... I mean, this is frightening, in my humble opinion, this government, and I'm not using hyperbole. I do think it's frightening. I think we've got a Home Secretary today wants to publish migrant crime league tables. Well, how about stopping them coming? We've got a Chancellor who's already out of wiggle after 10 months, a Foreign Secretary who gives away things and eats his way, and a Prime Minister who didn't even admit until today that a woman can't have a penis. And we laugh and we joke. But that's quite frightening. We're 1 year in, Sir John. Where does it end? I'll tell you where it ends. Actually, I'm going to tell you. Like in 79, because it started in Birmingham. Give me 30% as a union, or I'll be on strike. They will bankrupt this country 1,000,000%. And I'm afraid this is a lot on the Tories at the end, because this should never have happened. You must agree with that.
Well, no, it shouldn't have happened. And you know that I spent quite a lot of the previous Parliament disagreeing with the last government, making sensible suggestions as I thought to them. And I'm very sorry that didn't fall on more sympathetic ears. And
we know you did, and that's why we love having you on.
I'm now providing independent commentary. I'd love this government to pick up some of the good ideas, because I want our country to do well, and they are the elected government. But they have crashed and burned in their first 10 months. Their popular ratings have absolutely plunged. Took the Conservatives 12 or 13 years to get down to the lower 20s, and Labour got down there within about 7 months. So the public is in agreement with you. They say, no, this isn't working, this is not what we wanted. And I think migrants is one of the really big things where the previous government didn't get it right. This government implied that they had a better model, a better plan. They dumped the things the Conservatives had done that were just beginning to have a deterrent effect on people coming in. And lo and behold, what happens? The numbers soar. And so we're now seeing record numbers and no success at all in smashing the gangs, which is what they promised us to do. You know, they're not even arresting the people who drive the boats over here. And it's our border force picking them up in mid-channel from those little boats. They must be able to see which person is steering and driving the boat.
Well, let me tell you what...
Well, why aren't they arrested immediately they arrive?
Of course, completely agree. I used to be a fan of the RNLI. Let me tell you, in America, this was told to me by Stephen Wolfe 2 hours ago. In the first 100 days of Donald Trump, love him or loathe him, and there's plenty I don't agree with, 325,000 this time last year in 3 months. Illegal migrants, 8,300, because he's done what he said he was going to do. And you will never convince me that if it was not harder to access all the things that we give away, that's the deterrent. And the reason the British people have had enough, Sir John, in my humble, is they're missing out. We're a very generous people, but we've got to a point where this country is going, hold on a minute, really sorry if you don't like this, but charity needs to begin at home. I really feel that.
Well, and you can't afford all this inward migration, particularly the way we treat them, because we put them up in a 4-star hotel and don't let them work, and they sit around there for a long time. And then eventually the government says, you know what, why don't you stay here legally now? We'll forget the fact that you arrived illegally. Wow. And then they get all sorts of other benefits. I mean, it is too costly. We can't give them a decent life when they arrive. We shouldn't be doing this. We should close our borders to all these illegals. And as you rightly say, America can do it. And so why can't the United Kingdom, particularly as we've got a sea border, which should be easier to seal than a land border?
Completely agree. So, John Redwood, I will get you in panto. I think you're the Prime Minister that never was, that should have been. We love having you on. Thank you so much indeed. 10 to 7. Talk Drive.
Other than Nigel, there's nothing there. Nigel is the be-all and the end-all of reform, and therefore they're very dependent on him. And if Reform got this huge number of seats at the next election, how would it form a government? Who would the Chancellor of the Exchequer be? None of these questions are answered, and I think as we got closer to a general election, those would be questions at the forefront of people's minds. So I would very much like to see a cooperation between Reform and the Conservative Party, as I think most Conservatives and most Reform supporters believe in broadly the same things.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Talk Drive. Georgina, who's a regular to the show, has shocked me still further. I've just seen a note that says, Georgina is cooking in the nude, just like JK told me to. Wow. It'll be pasta and meatballs tonight. 0344 499 1000. Alex Phillips here from 7 o'clock in for, what was he called again? Oh, yeah, Kev O'Sullivan all week. Thank you to Sir John Redwood. And keep those calls coming for Alex. 0344 499 1000. WhatsApps as well. Should we get... Yes, let's go. Let's go to Brian in Whitley Bear, my favourite place. How are you, son?
Hiya. Great show.
Why, aye, man. Ganduna tune.
Absolutely. Listen, you know, it's about biological women, right? I've just been thinking.
Yeah.
What has a male and a trans person got in common that they can't change? Even though they get rid of the dangly bits, what can they not change? We've all got prostate glands.
Oh, that's quite serious. Oh, dear.
Yeah, we've all got them. You know what I mean? All males, doesn't matter if you're a male, trans person, you've got a prostate gland, and biological women don't have them, so that's one main difference. I know it's a bit of a stupid thing to bring up, but I just...
No, I think it's very, very sensible. It wasn't exactly what I thought you were going to say, but I appreciate it anyway. You're a good man. Thank you, Brian, in Whitley Bay. Rosie Duffield, we talked about her earlier. The Labour MP who stood up to Sir Keir Starmer is now an independent, has just responded to what I would say is Kemi Badenoch's greatest performance. She tore a strip off Bridget Phillipson in the chamber, and Rosie Duffield on the Labour side said, thanks to Kemi Badenoch, whose brilliant speech just now was the actual truth, not a new, rewritten, convenient version of it. She has been one of the most consistent supporters of feminists and women's sex-based rights, unlike any of those opposite now pretending to be. The amazing Rosie Duffield actually paying massive compliments to Kemi Badenoch there. She said, thanking her, and said, a brilliant speech, the actual truth, not a rewritten, convenient version of it, and says that Badenoch has been one of the most consistent supporters of feminists and women's sex-based rights, unlike those opposite are now pretending to be. Could not agree more. Interesting to see whether that gives, you know, Kemi Badenoch a bit of a flip. 0344 499 1000. Final call of the day. We're going to Eastbourne, where they play tennis, and everybody's 80. Russ, good evening, afternoon. How are you? 80?
No, I'm not 80 actually. I'm slightly younger, but I've dropped the average age down probably somewhat. But my point was about the transgender thing.
Yes.
And I was thinking maybe there's a really simple solution whereby at the moment there's two doors, well, three doors, but there's two doors that have sort of gents and ladies generally. Yes. So maybe you could have a penis on one and maybe a vagina or a non-penis on the other, and then it solves the problem. And also it would help the graphic design and the actual sign-making industry as well.
Good. Well, I can't believe that I've spent 3 hours, thank you, Russ in Eastbourne, talking almost entirely about penises. Because this started, and at that moment, in walks Alex Phillips.
Well, you only have to say the word once and it summons me.
It does sound. I didn't say, Alex, come, I say, penis, and she comes a-running. Extraordinary. It's taken Keir Starmer 5 years and millions of pounds to work out that a woman can't have a penis. Did you hear my sex joke? I was told I was allowed to do it.
No, tell me.
What do you call the useless bit of skin on the end of a penis?
The man.
Oh, she knew! Oh, you knew that, Phillips, did you?
I didn't,
You
but
got
it's
that
hardly...
right.
You don't need to be Brains of Britain to get that one, do you?
All right, don't decry.
I got a present today.
Right.
You know we've got, like, the parcel stash at the back there?
Yes.
You probably don't, because you probably never get anything, do you?
No, I learnt a long time ago that anything you get, you should never eat nor take home.
Oh, well, I'm taking mine home.
No, don't.
It's really cool.
What is it?
Look, I
It's
got
a T-shirt
this. I got a T-shirt. I don't know who it's from. Look at that.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't it good?
Right. OK, that's
in support of our agricultural labourers.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, I don't quite know what to say. You've done me again. Great show, by the way, last night. Loved that interview.
Oh, wasn't it good?
Yeah,
not,
really
I mean,
powerful.
I wasn't good. They were brilliant.
No,
I just sort of sat here and did the interview, but
interesting.
It was,
real outpouring today. I have to say, genuinely, to be quite serious with you, people are fed up of this rubbish. They really are.
Which bit of the rubbish are we
But all of
talking
it.
about? Like,
You've
all
got,
of it.
you've got a Home Secretary who's going to release a migrant crime table rather than actually stopping bleeding boats. You've got a Chancellor of the IMF today who says you're the most incompetent, useless idiot that's ever had the job, all in 9 months, and a Prime Minister who needs 5 judges to tell him that a woman can't have a penis. That's what we've got.
I know that's what we've got. And meanwhile, we've got lawless Britain. We've got a tent city building in London.
Birmingham, by the way, Birmingham, because you're not old enough, I am, to remember 79, that'll happen in all the major cities because all the unions will say, give us 30%.
And
you can't afford it. Oh, right, OK,
It's more sinister than that because the union is now using this to say, well, you know, we should overthrow the Labour Council by uniting the hard left, the sort of extreme greenies, with, guess who? The pro-Gaza MPs.
It's all going on. I can't wait for your show. And you're looking rather lovely.